So if a fire alarm sounds, please follow the committee staff and leave by the exit nearest the large screen at the front of the room and proceed down the fire exit to the courtyard. Once it is safe to return, councillors will receive a text message. Officers will also advise when it is safe to return to the meeting. Webcasting. We are recording the meeting this evening. The webcast will be transmitted live to the Council's YouTube page. It will also be available on the Council's website following the meeting. Generally, the public seating areas are not filmed. However, by entering St George's Suite and using the public seating area, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting and training purposes. Before we begin this evening's meeting, I would like to remind members to speak directly into the microphone to enable those present and those watching online to be able to hear the proceedings. Could all those present ensure their phones are turned to silent for the duration of this meeting? Please could I remind councillors that we are in pre-election period for the Wickford Park and St Martin's by-elections. Therefore, could members avoid making any direct reference to the by-elections and any candidates involved in these elections? Thank you. As set out in the letter from myself, the Chief Executive and Monitoring Officer, please could members remember to engage respectfully with one another and to address your speeches to me as Chair of this meeting. I will now move on to the business of tonight's agenda, and in doing so I will take this opportunity to remind you to ensure that all questions are relevant and concise. Item number 1, apologies for absence. I have received apologies from Councillors Baggott and Moore. Are there any other apologies for absence? Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Apologies from Councillor Adele Brown.
Thank you. Are there any other further apologies for absence? See no hands, so I'll move on to item number 2. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest to be made by members? I will take on block the Essex County Council Councillors' declarations of interest. Councillor Ansell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to declare an interest in items 9, 12A and 12B on the agenda. These items relate to my disclosable pecuniary interest as a director of a business that operates in the planning industry, so I will withdraw from the meeting for the duration of those items and will not take part in the votes.
Thank you, Councillor Ansell. Are there any other? Councillor Sargent.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Mr Mayor, I'll be on item number 9, declaring interest, Parish Councillor.
Thank you. Are there any other declarations of interest before we proceed? None. Thank you. Item number 3, minutes. Do I have your agreement that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 1st of May 2025 are a true and correct record? I'm hoping to seek consensus of the meeting without seeking a formal vote. The general nods in the room. Agreed. Thank you. Moving on to announcements. As Mayor, I have an announcement that the list of engagements that myself and the Deputy Mayor have been circulated for you all to see and take interest in. And it's been thoroughly fun. Don't try to put those two words together again. Enjoying ourselves at those engagements. Deputy Mayor, do you have any announcements? Leader of the Council? Cabinet members, please indicate. Councillor Power?
Be a good start. Thank you, Mr Mayor. This week has seen a major step forward for the borough. Basildon is finally building. We have welcomed a £171 million investment into the regeneration of the town centre from Starlight Investment Fund, and this one site will deliver 500 homes, new shops and thousands of local jobs. This council has been working with the investors, developers and the supply chain, and this is all underpinned by the Basildon First Charter and really brings to life how this can and will work across the borough. Local homes built by local businesses and training local people. The Basildon Construction Academy will deliver training on site and create sustainable and long-term jobs for every aspiring Bricky, Chippy and Sparky in Basildon. I welcome this news and I look forward to even more interest and investment coming to the borough. This week I also welcome the news that Lidl in Leindon is on site and progressing really well. And this is happening, and I'm glad this is happening for the residents of Leindon Park. This new, larger store will be a welcome start to the rest of the development, and this summer will see the activity really ramp up on site and deliver the commercial units, homes and jobs that Leindon really deserves. Alongside all of this great regeneration, I've had the pleasure of welcoming the Essex Chambers to the town centre this week. This was a great opportunity to shout about all of the fantastic work we're doing and create real opportunities for our residents. They actually support our vision and know the impact we can have on the local economy when our vision is inclusive growth and getting on with the delivery of backing our local businesses. Lastly, Mr. Mayor, I would just like to raise awareness of an event later this month. As we will celebrate Armed Forces Day on the 28th, all the work the council are doing to continue to support veterans, we're hosting a Veterans Jobs Fair here in the Basildon Centre, downstairs at Pathways. This will be on the 26th of June from 11 a.m. This is a chance to meet local employers, get in-person support and guidance on your next career move, and it brings together employers who are committed to support this borough's veterans. And I do look forward to joining and meeting many of you on the day. So to conclude, Mr. Mayor, from this announcement, and I'm sure many to follow from my Cabinet members, it does appear that people really do believe in Basildon.
Thank you, Councillor Power. Councillor McGarren.
Thank you very much. It gives me great pleasure to announce, and it was approved by Cabinet last week, for those you missed it, to great approval from the general population of Basildon. The street lights will be going back on in autumn. I'll give you a proper date when I've got it, Kerry, steady on. But it will be autumn. Right. This has been universally popular. I've yet to meet a person who doesn't approve of it, which begs the question in 2023, when the Conservative administration had the opportunity to extend the deal that the last Labour independent administration forged, why they didn't. Well, the reasons are sort of simple, aren't they? You would rather doff your cap to your social superiors at Chelmsford County Hall than listen to the residents and actually do something about their safety, the #1 issue for anyone in this council chamber. We don't doff our caps to County Hall or anyone else. We get things done, and we're getting it done, and the people are delighted. And as the message gets across even more, they'll be even more delighted. There's a theme here, and I look at Councillor Blake, because on numerous occasions, Councillor Blake has said, when you bring in your new system, waste collection system, the recycling rates will go through the floor. It will be a disaster. Do anyone recall that? I seem to have a recollection of that. Yeah. Well, I've got the first figures for you, Councillor Blake. Councillor Barnes, you might be interested as well. So, in terms of residual waste, the black bags, May 2020, these are all May 2024 to May 2025 figures, right? Residual waste, all in tonnes, T-O-N-N-E-S, Kerry, I do apologise, I'm sorry. But yeah, that's the measurement we use. So residual waste, May 2024, 2963. May 2025, 2775. Lower. Down. Right? Down. Paper and card, 545.26 in May 2024. May 2025, 585.92. A very small increase that we will turn around. It's the first month, massive change in the system, all sorts of demands on the crews, tiny increase. Plastic and cans, 299.795 last year, 292.347 this year. Tiny difference. Again, give us a few months, we'll turn it around. Food waste, last year 687.16, this year 636.260. So again, smallish fall. There are reasons for that, I won't bore you with them, but again, we will turn it around. Garden waste, and this is the only one with a significant fall, but I can explain it as always. So 1521.74 last year, 1183.52 this year. The weather. It's called the weather. So just wait, just wait, because I've got an answer to a question from Councillor Jeffrey later. You'll love it. Just wait. All of these, you know, with the exception of garden waste, which is a bit of a one-off, that'll soon change. They're all going in the right direction. We've had a massive change. No, we've had a massive change. No, you're laughing. You said the recycling would fall off a cliff. There is no falling off a cliff. There is no falling off a cliff. The paper and card is up. It's actually increased. With better enforcement, which we're bringing in, better education, which we're bringing in, and a waste system that works, which is in, and will get better, it will get better. So, there's a theme. The residents say what they want, we listen, you lot say it can't be done, and we deliver. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor McGurran. I remind members to speak through the chair and Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm glad you said that. There's one thing I will have to pick up on before I do my announcements, and it's to remind Councillor McGurran of the first Metric Martyrs case, where the defence against the state was Spitfires built in Imperial, Messerschmitts in metric, and what shot down the most. I do like my Imperial measurements, don't that foreign muck. We've got a few positive things now. I've taken over this brief about crime and enforcement. First thing is the town centre, the security teams. I sent out my little secret shopper to tell me what your faults were. No sugarcoating. And she said she see the guys with the assistance of a police officer stopping people on push bikes. Yes, that's not the crime of the century, but it's one of the it's okay, Councillor Power and the leader working hard to get businesses in the town, but if people don't feel secure, they're not going to come into the town. So all these bits and pieces come together hand and glove. So we're taking that issue seriously. We've had the incident Friday with the illegal traveller incursion by the Basilwood sign. That was dealt with. Regrettably, they've moved on to Pitsea, and we've been straight on to the Essex County Traveller Unit. So we're going to expect some issues. At last Friday's Essex County Traveller Unit, where I'm the borough's rep, I had a difference with the, let's say, the committee there and the leadership of it, another reason for Baz exit, with regards to certain sites at certain times. And Councillor Blake will recall when me and him and Slodge was at car park 14 trying to do a human shield, and there was a lot more of me back then, and we still couldn't stop him invading car park 14. When that car park was reclaimed through the due processes of the Essex County Traveller Unit, there was just tons upon tons, imperial tons, Councillor McGurran, of fly tipping dumped there. And I said at the Essex County Traveller Unit meeting, should we have a policy across the county of fixing mobile CCTV at entrances to sites, so if they are fly tipping or anyone wants to use their presence there to fly tip, they can be caught, and if there's any open bed trucks carrying fly tipping, we can do a waste transfer licence check, and if they haven't, we can state upon legal powers. And the board was, oh no, can't do that, can't do that, can't do that. So I have a tougher view. I've spoken with the Chief Executive on the matter. I don't care who you are, what you are, you're not using Basildon as a business place to dump rubbish on. People live here, it's a family town, and we're not suffering any of it. And I'd like to wrap up on 2 points. One is to thank the leader for his assistance. None of us here are against the homeless, but when we're trying to regenerate the town, the underneath of Marks and Spencer's was becoming a bit of a shanty town. It's been boarded up, and we're in the process of reclaiming the costs back to the taxpayer from the landowner. It's our town. We're happy to help the homeless, but we've got to make our town centre great again. And my second and final thanks is to my colleague Councillor Larkin, who does her annual charity golf day with local undertaker Western Co, and they support many, many charities in Basildon. Being slightly rude, Mr. Mayor, any charities you wish to name, Mo?
No, we need to, there's a few gaps now because a few of them that I've supported are not there no more now. So
right, so if anyone's got any...
spaces.
So what you're saying is, Councillor Larkin, through the chair, if anyone knows of any good local charities that are supporting Basildon people, drop Councillor Larkin an email for no fear or favour. And I won't be playing golf, Every time I get on a golf course, I slip up, literally. Ask Basildon Golf Course, maybe it's the shoes I wear, so I won't be making a scene of myself again on a golf course. Thank you, Mr Mayor, members.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Emma Callaghan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. How do I follow Kerry? Okay, I'm really pleased to announce that we've launched the Basildon Women's Safety Forum, following clear evidence that violence and sexual offences remain the most reported crime in our borough across every single ward. Reports of domestic abuse and harassment are also consistently high and have been since 2019 consistently, often in public spaces, on transport and in everyday settings. The forum gives women a place to share their experiences and work with us to find practical ways to improve safety across the borough. It will initially be led by myself and the Council's domestic violence champion, Councillor Victoria Joseph, but with a view that the women who attend will eventually make it their own. And also, I'm pleased to confirm that our new Community Health and Wellbeing Centre was officially launched on Monday the 16th of June this week. The Elemental system is now live and being used by our outreach and engagement team to link residents to local support and services. A wider rollout is being planned. Training sessions for members are included. It's showing some fantastic results, and the outreach and engagement team are doing great work to populate it. So we'd be happy to offer a demonstration of how it works to anyone interested. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. Are there any other Cabinet members wishing to speak? Announcements? Okay, I've had no notification from the various chairmen of committees. Chief Executive? No. Okay, moving on from item number 4, announcements, move to item 5, petitions. I have not been notified of any petitions. 6 members, question time. There have been 4 questions submitted by members of the council. 1 supplementary question is permitted. If the time of 30 minutes is reached, then the member who submitted the question will receive a response in writing. Okay, question number 1 is from Councillor Kevin Blake. Would you like to read out your question to Councillor McGarren, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Will the council consider expanding its so-called green space guarantee to include the vast areas of the green belt currently threatened with concreting over part of the administration's plan to build 27,000 houses?
Yeah. Good question. Good question. Thank you, Councillor Blake, for the question. It seems that the opposition front bench aren't really talking to each other very much, or certainly not seeing eye to eye. At a recent cabinet meeting, the leader of the Conservative group was suggesting the Green Guarantee was an empty gesture that didn't afford sufficient protection from development. Now his colleague, Councillor Blake, seems to be such a fan of the scheme, he wants to extend it to every blade of grass north of the A127. Quite extraordinary flip-flop there. Well done. For the benefit of both of them, let me explain what the Green Guarantee does and doesn't do. I'll try and keep it simple. What the Green Guarantee scheme actually does is give extensive real protection to council-owned land or where the land is in some form of public community ownership. Whilst theoretically the council could apply for Green Guarantee status on private land, this would be highly unlikely to be successful, and even in the unlikely event of that happening, being granted, it would have no real weight and give no protection worth having. So in other words, Councillor Blake, there would be absolutely no point, even if I wanted to, or other cabinet members wanted to, doing what you suggest. I eagerly await your supplement.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary question?
Certainly do. So is it your government's policy to change green belt to grey belt to make it more simple for you to actually protect the small bits of green fields that we actually do have?
I didn't realise I've been promoted. This is splendid news. Splendid news. So I'm now part of the government. So not just an £89,000 salary, but the ministerial top-up. This is Kevin Blake. I've never been so grateful to you in all my life. Obviously, I do not speak for the government yet. But so I will stick to the question in hand. If you look up what has been said about grey belt, rather than misinterpret it, it is quite clear what grey belt is and isn't. So you go away and do your homework and stop misinforming people on what grey belt is. But I will be quite clear, and it's not my portfolio, but this administration is clear. We need to build homes. We don't apologise about that. We need to build homes, and some of them, Councillor Blake, need to be north of the A127. Quite a lot of them need to be, because you have not took your share for years and years and years. Right? That is the truth of the matter. And there's a lot of Billericay members over there living in houses that, you know, worth quite a few quid. And, you know, yeah, okay. I'm being honest, unlike some other people. Living in houses that are worth quite a few quid that used to be, not that long ago, 20, 30, 40 years ago, fields or orchards. But you're now saying, draw a bridge up, no one's building any more south of the A127, even though there's a need to do so, right? So I'm saying, no, you're wrong. We need to build across the borough, and we need to provide the right sort.
No conversation between councillors. Just wrap up the supplementary answer. Thank you.
We need to build the right sort of homes across the borough. So anyway, going back to the original question, what the Green Guarantee does, it will provide an absolute commitment to protect and enhance the green spaces, which you would imagine should be protected already, but aren't, for generations to come. The guarantee...
We're supposed to speak for supplementary, not the original question.
I'm answering both. I'm answering both. The guarantee has been developed alongside the Council's emerging plan and acts in tandem with it. So I will not take lectures from members over there who willfully allowed every bit of green space south of the A127 to be developed and built on, and now will not allow a blade of grass north of the A127 to be touched. We need houses, we're building them, get used to it.
Thank you. Question number 2, Councillor Anthony Headley. Would you like to read out your question to Councillor McGeorge?
Thank you, Mr. Smith. With your indulgence, I'd just like to offer Councillor McGeorge's son my congratulations on being accepted at Oxford, I believe, to read classics. Well done. So turning to the question, it's around the Warm Homes Guarantee. Does the National Government's recent U-turn on the decision to withdraw the winter fuel allowance mean the administration will withdraw the so-called Warm Homes Guarantee?
Thank you. Councillor McGeorge.
Thank you very much for the question. The Warm Homes Guarantee that the administration implemented last year helped 262 households. As it stands, there is still money...
Sorry, Councillor.
What?
Councillor Headley, could you turn your mic off, please?
That's all right, I'm not on film. As it stands, there is still money allocated in the 25-26 budget.
Councillor Headley, do you have a supplementary question? Thank you.
In the government's manifesto, it committed to a Warm Homes plan to upgrade 5 million homes over the next 5 years, which is a laudable ambition. But they've recently issued... earlier this month, they issued an 88-page advice notice on how that would proceed, particularly with the advent of net zero. So in 6.1 of that, they describe a local government grant will have 2 twin cost caps. Can you explain how that will be operated in Basildon?
Thank you, Councillor Headley. If you'd like to turn your mic off. Councillor McGeorge.
You lied to me earlier, Councillor Headley. He did. It's fine. So, Basildon Council, as it stands, have been awarded over £10 million for upgrades to our properties. So we'll be using that through the HRA to ensure that our properties are kept warmer and the improvements will be made.
Thank you. Question number 3 from Councillor Myers to Councillor Emma Callaghan. Councillor Myers, would you like to read out your question, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Why did the council not publicise the public consultation on the electoral cycle?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The answer to Councillor Myers' question is very simple. We did.
Councillor Myers, do you have a supplementary question?
I do, not based on the FOIs that we received. So there can be no justification for not publicising across normal things, Facebook, the council's members bulletin and other networks that normal consultations normally go through. This was hidden behind 3 or 4 pages on the council's website. Does a cabinet member agree with me the failure to advertise, the low response rate and the failure to disclose the fact that the entire exercise would have had a different result were it not for elected members flooding the response at the last minute, leaves the council open to allegations of bad administration? And will she agree to rerun this consultation in the normal way so residents actually get a chance to have a say?
Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Councillor Myers might have got himself confused. I think he wants an answer to a question he didn't ask. If you want my opinion on the quality of the consultation and the number of responses, then you should ask a question relating to that. What you asked is why the consultation was not publicised, which is factually incorrect. The consultation was discussed at 2 public full council meetings in January and March. It was live streamed, discussed at length by all political groups. The agenda and papers for both meetings were published under Part 1 and made available to the public on the council's website. You're shaking your head, but this is facts, Mr. Mayor. The consultation was promoted on the council's Have Your Say platform and was live for 6 full weeks from the 27th of January to the 9th of March 2025. These are facts, gentlemen. I'm sorry that they don't suit your narrative. Hard copies were made available at the council's contact centre for digitally excluded residents. Did you make any use of those to help residents? The leader of the council also referred to the consultation during his Facebook Live updates, which regularly reach over 500,000 views per month, an audience reach that the leader of the opposition can only dream of. It is disingenuous to imply that the consultation was not published, that it was hidden or poorly promoted when multiple channels, digital, in-person, political and public, were used. Now, the real issue isn't whether it was publicised, as we've seen tonight. It was publicised. It's that some members may not have liked the result. The consultation was properly promoted, properly run and properly discussed, publicly.
Thank you. Councillor George Jeffrey, you have a question to Councillor McGurran. Would you like to read out your question, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What measures is the Cabinet member implementing to reduce the number of missed waste collections?
Councillor McGurran.
Thank you. I'm really grateful to Councillor Jeffrey for that question. To use a sporting analogy, I think he's bowled a real slow left armour with absolutely nothing on it that I'm about to smash out for one of the most comfortable sixes ever. So, if you want the facts, and I know you don't really trade in facts, but if you do want the facts, we've just been through an incredible transformation of our waste collection system. Major changes in how we do it, major changes in technology, major changes in staffing. So I'm going to read you the figures for the numbers of missed collections again, May 2024 to May 2025. So the last time you were in, or most of that period anyway, before we had a chance to do anything decent, and the first month of our new system. So non-recyclables were 315, this is missed collections, are now May 2025, 307. a fall of 2.5%. Modest fall, it'll get better. Green bins, and I know this is the focus of your attention, Councillor Jeffrey, so danger of listening to the noise on social media and not actually putting it into context. The green bin collections May 2024, missed collections 634, this May 624, down 1.58% missed collections. So despite all the noise, less missed collections now, despite all the changes, despite the fact that green bins are not yet on the new in-cab technology, but will be soon. But wait for the good bits. Glass, 65 last year, 44 this year, down 32.31%. Food last year, 316, this year 217, down 31.33%. It gets better, and I would like to thank Councillor James. I've promoted him or not demoted him, James Hendry and his waste teams for the amazing job they've done, because they have done an amazing job on this. Card and paper missed collections last year 293, this year 156, 46.76% better this year. And but the best for last, you don't seem to be paying attention really. Plastic and cans, 327 last year, 137 this year, a massive 58.1% improvement. That's in the first month. Imagine where we could be in a few months' time. Councillor Schrader looks a bit unwell, I'm not surprised. Councillor Blake may need some help. I can't wait for your supplementary. Bring it on.
Thank you, Councillor McGowan. Councillor Jeffrey, do you have a supplementary?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the rural areas of Wickford I represent, missed collections are a recurring problem with a delay of up to 4 weeks. So, as we can both agree, I'm sure you'd say that that's unacceptable. So, will you commit to a zero tolerance policy, particularly in our rural areas, especially as you've doubled the additional green bin charge?
Councillor McGowan.
Well, actually, the green bin charge was introduced by the previous Conservative administration. Again, facts are a little inconvenient sometimes, but they can be quite useful as well. So let's bear that in mind. Councillor Jeffrey's quoting a 4-week figure for missed collections to be rectified. Give me the evidence, I'll get it sorted, because I haven't seen that evidence. What I have seen evidence of is these phenomenal improvements. And like I say, the green waste system is the last to have the in-cab technology introduced. It will be introduced at the beginning of July. You will see a dramatic increase then. But the fact of the matter is, there's still less missed collections this year in May than there was last year in May. That's a fact. Right. So I accept one point. Any missed collection is a missed collection too many. But we are getting there. So another few facts for you. There is actually less than one missed collection per route per day. The teams undertake 1.65 million collections each month of the year, and missed collections for May were 0.09%. I'll read that to you again, 0.09%. So if you want to go to the barricades over that, fine. It's also going to improve. It's also going to improve, because like I say, any missed collection is one too many. But we've made phenomenal progress in a very short period of time, and there's more to come. And like I say, I can't thank James Hendry and the wonderful waste crews enough. They've done a magnificent job, and you should be thanking them rather than being churlish.
Thank you. I've received an urgent question from Councillor Walter Brown. Councillor Brown, would you like to read your urgent question to Councillor Gavin Callaghan? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a result of South Essex Parking Partnership, that's SEP, not being prepared to do any regular patrols or actively enforcing existing parking restrictions outside the school gates of Lee Chapel Primary, this has resulted in the bus service along the Nares being cancelled during the morning and evening rush hour. Will the leader write a joint letter with County Councillor Kerry Smith to the Essex Cabinet Member for Highways to call for SEP to be disbanded in Basildon Borough, and all such powers that SEP holds are transferred to Basildon Borough Council now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Callaghan.
It's always nice to be surprised, isn't it? At last, we've had a decent question asked this evening. Let me deal with Councillor Brown's point. He is absolutely right that it is unacceptable that if car parking restrictions are not being enforced and a bus route is having to be cancelled, that is wrong, and we need to be fixing that. I just today got a parking ticket from SEP in Basildon Town Centre, so timing is great. So they do exist. They are here. They're 35 quid up on where they were at 9 o'clock this morning, but they are here. But my view has long been that the South Essex Parking Partnership is not fit for purpose. Too often what we find with the data is that the enforcement officers are spending all of their time in Brentwood and in Chelmsford, where they think they can make more money for the partnership, and here in Basildon we are left behind. I'm happy to write to Tim Cunningham at Essex County Council and to ask for Tom Cunningham at Essex County Council, and to ask him to support measures to bring SEP powers back in-house to Basildon Council. I think it will also help with the revenue position, because I think we could do a lot more in terms of enforcement. It drives me mad every day that there are people parked on double yellow lines outside this council building, and we are not enforcing parking restrictions here as well. So, yeah, I agree, SEP is coming to the end of its natural life, and the sooner we can get things back in-house, the better. And to Lee Chapel Primary School, this council will support them to ensure that that bus service is put back on as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. Do you have a supplementary question, Councillor Brown?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item 7, appointment of interim section officer 151. This is on your agendas, item 7. I call upon Councillor Callaghan, the Cabinet Member for Finance and Strategy, to have 10 minutes. He does not require a seconder.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I won't detain Council for 10 minutes. I know there are other items on the agenda tonight that we will want to get to. Following the resignation of Mr Owen Sparks, who has left the Council with our best wishes and taken up his post at Epping Forest District Council, the Council is required to appoint a Section 151 statutory officer. Tina French, who many members may have joined the Council back in February as the Deputy 151 and has done sterling work, particularly on the outturn report, which we will be seeing shortly coming to Cabinet. She is going to fill the role of interim Section 151 officer. It is my intention, alongside the Chief Executive, to begin a competitive process for the permanent position. That will begin very shortly, and I would expect us to be back here in the autumn with a name to take on the role of the permanent Section 151 officer. Mr Mayor, I am happy to answer any questions, but this is a fairly technical report and statutory report, and we need to do it. So I would recommend Tina French be appointed as the interim Section 151 officer. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. The matter is now open for debate. Do I have any speakers? No. Councillor Callaghan, do you want to wind up? No. Okay, put that straight to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Okay, that was unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to item 8, the annual report of the Standards Committee. Councillor Joseph will present the report as chair of the Standards Committee, has up to 10 minutes and does not require a seconder. Councillor Joseph.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Does everyone have the pack, the report? Yeah, I've got it. Okay, so as outgoing chair of Standards Committee, I'm pleased to present this annual report to the full council. This report outlines the committee's work over the 2024 to 2025 municipal year, including the assessments and outcomes of complaints, updates of the members' code of conduct and efforts to uphold high standards of behaviour across the council. While some meetings were cancelled due to lack of business, the committee still made meaningful progress, supporting a robust framework for good governance, fairness and transparency. The report also includes details of training provided to members and our ongoing commitment to maintaining public trust. During my time as chair, I genuinely enjoyed it. It gave me a glimpse into the importance of the committee's work in underpinning fairness, accountability and public confidence in local government. I want to thank the officers and members involved for continuing to uphold these values, even when the agenda may have seemed light. I wholeheartedly commend this report to the council for its approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Joseph. Just turn off your mic, please. Thank you. Okay, the matter is now open for debate. Do I have any hands up? No. Okay, thank you. Councillor Joseph, you may wind up or not, depending what you wish to do.
That's okay.
Okay, thank you. This report is to be received and therefore no vote is needed. Thank you. Moving on to item 9, improvement to the planning delegation. Call on Councillor. The leader. Oh, okay, thank you. I call upon the leader of the council to present the report for 10 minutes. It does not require a seconder. Thank you.
Thank you. It's going well, isn't it? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members may know Councillor Brown is currently recovering in Basildon Hospital after being taken ill. I'm sure all members across the chamber will wish her a speedy recovery. In her absence, I've been asked to move this report, which is probably not the smartest idea, given that in 15 years I've never actually sat on a planning committee and have no intention of ever doing so either. So there is a chance that in this next 10 minutes it will sound like for once that I don't know what I'm talking about. But please keep your intelligent contributions to a minimum. Mr. Mayor, part 1 of this report tonight relates to what gets brought to the planning committee and what decisions are delegated to officers. In simple terms, it is about ensuring the committee's time is spent on applications that actually require political judgment and not rubber stamping perfectly straightforward ones that meet policy and raise no major issues. When we first engaged the Planning Advisory Service, one of their key recommendations was to reduce the number of straightforward major applications that come to committee. They recognised that our process was pulling in items that didn't need to be there, cluttering agendas and wasting time. We also remember listening to Councillor Rimmer for hours on end. Since then, officers have reviewed the types of applications being referred and identified a number that are essentially policy compliant, uncontentious and ultimately administrative in nature. The proposed changes, which are in enclosure 1, will now reduce those referrals. But let me reassure members, any major residential or residential-led mixed-use developments, including Section 73 applications, will still go to the Planning Committee. These remain among the most complex and controversial applications that the Council faces, and it is right for the committee to have oversight. Members will also continue to have be able to call in any application they feel deserves committee scrutiny with agreement from the Assistant Director and Chair of Planning, and that has all happened in the last 12 months as well. So we're not reducing accountability, we are simply applying a bit more common sense. This change was generally well received by the Planning Committee when it was first tabled, and I wouldn't expect any challenge on that tonight. Part 2, this section of the report, stems again from the advice of PAS The refresh of the planning protocol or code of practice is about setting out how we run the planning committee, how we engage with the public, and how we manage expectations and behaviour. When PAS re-engaged with us in June, they noted improved relationships between officers and members, but they also made clear that a protocol is still essential. It provides clarity, transparency, and a shared understanding of roles. The new protocol draws on national best practice. It includes guidance on things like declarations of interest, avoiding predetermination, and the handling of public speaking requests. Don't get quoted on the front page of the local newspaper. It also addresses one or two habits we carried over from the COVID era, such as members of the public emailing in their statements to be read out by officers, and this is clarified in the new protocol. There's also guidance for chairs, and the refresh is also about giving fair, effective and respect to the public developers, ourselves and officers. The third recommendation in this report relates to the proposal to remove the representative of the Association of Basildon Local Councils from the Planning Committee. To be absolutely blunt, Mr Mayor, this arrangement is already highly unusual. It doesn't exist in most other authorities, and PAS flagged it as irregular and lacking in transparency. It is also not entirely clear how or why the role came to exist in the first place, though it seems to have started as a goodwill gesture to parish and town councils to help them feel more engaged in the process. I have to say, they've never struck me as shy before this was introduced, so I don't think it will make too much difference now. The proposal is not about disengaging with the parishes and towns. It is about ensuring the committee itself remains transparent, politically accountable, and in line with best practice. Parish and town councils still receive planning application consultations and are given notice when items are coming to committee, which gives them the opportunity to register to speak. They still have 2 bites at the cherry, therefore, to have their say. That engagement is not being lost. Sitting on the committee as a voting or influencing member is not something that PAS or most other authorities would see as either necessary or appropriate. So this proposal simply brings us back in line with good national governance. So, Mr Mayor, in summary, we are streamlining the scheme of delegation to free up time and focus for members. We are adopting a clear, modern planning protocol to sustain improved relationships and professionalism. We're aligning the committee's membership with proper governance by removing the ABLC representative. And crucially, for the last 5 minutes, I've sounded like I know what I was talking about. So my thanks to Charles Sweeney for the briefing that he gave me yesterday. All told, this report has already been shaped with the input of the Planning Committee. It reflects national best practice and it supports both member and officer confidence in how we do planning at Basildon. So I'm happy to move it and I'm now going to hope that no one asks me anything intelligent. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. The matter is now open for debate. Councillor Turner.
Point of order, Mr Chair. 15.8. Sorry.
Bear with me whilst I examine 15.8. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Myers, that point of order is to raise a amendment. I take it that's what you wish to do.
It is, Mr Mayor, yes.
Okay, you may proceed with your amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. The amendment is to scrap recommendation 3 from the report. Thank you, Mr Mayor, for allowing the amendment to be debated. Members will note a very simple request to keep the ABLC co-opted non-voting member on the Planning Committee. The other recommendations, such as the new delegation of authority and the code of practice, have not been altered. The Association of Basildon Local Councils combines our current 9 parish and town councils who meet to share ideas, information and to discuss borough issues that will affect their parish communities. Now, whilst as the report clearly states, individual parish councils can make written representations or can speak for up to 3 minutes on an application, which is not the same as the co-opted member. The role of the ABLC co-opted member is, in my view, therefore important for the following reasons. Firstly, the co-opted member has done the necessary training to sit on the committee and advised to look closer at planning issues and to ask the pertinent questions that more likely affect parish areas than perhaps members here on the planning committee are unaware of. For example, known localised flooding issues, wildlife and ecological information, and issues that perhaps the formal report does not pick up on, etc. This gives members who can vote the opportunity for a fully rounded discussion about an item, particularly if we feel something may have been overlooked or some further information is required. Secondly, the ABLC provides that bridge between the borough and the individual councils. Their representative is a clear enhancement of links between us. It helps to build trust in the planning process, it improves transparency in our system for a local parish councillor can engage in discussion and debate in St George's Suite, and it provides further accountability for the Basildon members have listened to parish concerns. Thirdly, Mr Mayor, the ABLC themselves are accountable to the public. Their membership are democratically accountable parish councillors and their council clerks, with a parish councillor co-opted to serve here in this chamber. The idea that the arrangement is confusing to the public or takes away accountability is frankly rubbish. It is clear they have no right to vote, but they have their right to debate. Look at some of our other committees at this council. Standards, audit and risk, licensing, tenancy reps on housing scrutiny, I'm assuming. All have independent persons who can take part in debate and provide information for members who can vote. What is the difference here? The only difference I can see is that the ABLC member on planning is a democratically accountable parish councillor serving on behalf of our 9 parish and town councils. Now, as serving as Vice Chairman of the Planning Committee in the 2023-2024 municipal year, I met with the Planning Advisory Service confidentially as part of a scheduled review into the council's planning functions. When explained to PAS at the time the benefits of the parish representative, some I've outlined above, they were broadly in agreement and found it an interesting, in the positive sense, way to conduct our business. Now, of course, this was confidential and no minutes were taken, so you have to take my word for it. Now, as I have outlined some of the main reasons why I think this amendment should stand, I'll end on this. The presence of the ABLC member bears no financial pressure on this council, but provides sitting members with a wealth of opportunity for debate to get these planning decisions right. And I hope members will support this amendment this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Morris. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Blake, just to speak? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll speak to substantive in a moment, but just on this, it was mentioned earlier that this came to planning committee and we okayed this. That's not actually strictly true. Item 3, which we are debating about now, the member was told prior to the meeting he was not able to attend because the decision had already been made. And they had to go withdraw, pull back on that and say, actually, you can attend, but it's probably be the next meeting you're not going to attend whilst this goes through. So the officers and the chairman must have known at that time that this was going to be the proposal going forward. Yet they never, at that particular meeting, said that item 3 was going to be a case for us to look at. Had they done so, we would not have agreed for it coming forward to this committee tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Turner, do you wish to speak at this point? No. On the substantive, right. Yeah. Okay, I've got indications in turn. Councillor Schrader.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've little to add to what's been said by my colleague, Councillor Myers. All I'll say is I do find it odd that the removal of the ABLC rep wasn't put to members when the other amendments were considered by the committee on June the 4th. The report states that this recommendation emerged from a further comment made by the Planning Advisory Service because they think us having a co-opted non-voting member on the committee has the potential to cause confusion and uncertainty to members of the public. I can't say I find that a particularly compelling argument. We've always had a parish rep on the committee, certainly in all the years I was a member. I'm not aware it ever caused the slightest confusion or uncertainty for anyone. Frankly, it strikes me as petty. Not in the least bit persuaded it's something we ought to do just because PAS say we should. In the years I served on the committee, it'd be fair to say some of the parish reps made a rather stronger contribution to our deliberations than others, but frankly, the same could be said of a lot of the borough councillors. The parish rep is not a voting participant, so their presence can hardly be said to materially affect the outcome of an application, and they're unpaid. So, as Councillor Myers says, there's zero cost implications to the council. On that basis, honestly, why deprive the parishes of their voice? It smacks of spite. What's the point? Sadly, it feels like another nail in the coffin. I had my disputes with the last government over planning matters, made no secret of it, but the present Labour government seemed determined to silence local people. I'm trying not to be too cynical about the amendments to the scheme of delegation. I can't detect anything that raises too many hackles, but removing the ABLC rep seems so unnecessary, it can't help but feed into a growing sense of a piece-by-piece salami slicing away of the residents' voice in the planning process. Now, I appreciate removing one non-voting member doesn't seem that big a deal, but when viewed in the wider context of Labour's new planning and infrastructure bill, you begin to see a frighteningly clear picture emerging of a government hell-bent on build, 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 who believe planning is truncated and cumbersome, all these pesky residents wanting to have their say. Who do they think they are? So we see legislation explicitly aimed at silencing them, denuding local representatives of their ability to speak up for them, ensuring councillors get almost no say in the majority of applications, stripping them of their power to respond to local need and shape their communities. Why do we even have a committee of councillors? Presumably so that beyond soulless planning legislation, faceless policies, befuddling guidelines and generic minimum standards, elected members could bring to bear their local knowledge and represent their residents. I attended the recent planning training. I came away fairly dispirited. It seems to me it's fast becoming virtually impossible to turn anything down. So hardly surprising they want to reduce what goes to committee. What's the point in meeting to discuss, debate or vote on developments when changes to the NPPF and proposals coming down the track in the planning infrastructure bill make their role more or less redundant? Look, members opposite are going to do whatever they're going to do. All I say to them is you have enough initiatives coming down the track that serve to erode public trust in planning and indeed the purpose of local government itself. This is something I gently suggest we simply don't need to do. I get the pressure from your own central government. We had the same battles with our merry band of Muppets in Westminster when it was our side in power, so I get it. Just stop for a second. Don't contribute to that erosion of public trust if you don't have to. You don't have to remove the parish rep. They're the planning advisory service, not the planning instruction service. They advise, you decide. I say, keep the parish rep, keep that voice on the committee, don't send yet another glaring signal to the public that we don't really care what they think or want. I'll be supporting the amendment, Mr. Mayor. If the amendment fails, as I fear it will, I'll have no compunction whatever in voting against the substantive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Sargent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The report quotes Section 101 of the Local Government Act 1972. It also quotes the Localism Act 2011, which actually states it's UK law designed to devolve more power from central government to local councils, communities and individuals. It aims to give local people more control over their lives and their neighbourhoods. However, after 20 years of the council allowing a town or parish councillor onto the planning committee, very much in line with localism, the administration now want to remove them. Advice from the Planning Advisory Service quotes, an ABLC member was an irregular addition to the committee and caused confusion and uncertainty to members of the public. although no evidence or explanation is offered to support their claims. At one time, Councillor Brown chaired the Planning Committee and never noted or mentioned problems with the ABLC member. I see nothing in this report from PAS or planning officers giving any examples of confusion, uncertainty raised by the public, otherwise it would have been noted in the report. Can the leader explain how ABLC would make the Planning Committee operate less effectively rather than have them provide local public knowledge on planning applications? In fact, the public are inclined to agree with an ABLC member being on the Planning Committee to voice the opinion of parish areas who represent a high proportion of public within this borough. Of late, many planning applications have been passed that are in parish areas for huge housing developments, with their ABLC member acting as the conduit on the committee for the parishes. As a council, we pride ourselves on being totally inclusive, but this report has the opposite effect and wants to exclude without giving real reason. At least parish members raise question and resident opinion, which is more than can be said for some members of the Planning Committee who say nothing or advise the public of stale comments. Parishes have similar modes of governance and sign up to the same code of conduct. They are considered to be a fit statutory consultee, and though they have a voice, they do not vote. This report is just another way of curbing the voice of our neighbourhoods, the committee offering very little time for public participation and now removing an ABLC member after 20 years. This report does the exact opposite of localism. But I wonder, does the Cabinet take vision from Sakir in number 10, who is stemming local democracy by bringing in drastic planning reforms? It became clear in the recent planning training, when speaking of the planning reforms, we asked, will this mean planning committees have very little influence in future? Will this mean the planning committee will no longer have a meaningful purpose? I leave that up to you to decide. This is not what our neighbourhoods want, but it's all becoming very clear. Government have stopped the grant funding for neighbourhood plans. I knew that last year when the Notebridge neighbourhood plan was kicked into the long grass for 6 months. They do not want residents' plans interfering with massive building developments. The administration may pay very little regard to voters, consultation, or listen to the voice of the good people, but on this side of the chamber, we do. This council has a choice now. Choose to vote for local democracy, vote to keep the ABL member on the planning committee, or the amendment says, to strike it from one of the recommendations. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sargent. Councillor Callaghan. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I tell you, it's like an episode of The Twilight Zone if you've been here long enough, and especially if you're a member for Mayoral. They talk about democracy and the people's will. Phase 1 of Dry Street. Now, what did your then chairman of planning have in common with Biden, allegedly? Auto pens, yeah. Instead of having a council meeting to decide on phase 1, no, the magic pen came out. Not myself, nor my ward colleagues could have their say, not the residents. And as I go round there these days, there's people without any pavements and things like that, because the Conservatives know all, allegedly, and got the magic pen. So let's deal with the fake democracy line. Secondly, in their attacks, 6 of the wards in this borough are pretty much purely parished. 8 wards south of the 127, except the Little Bowers Gifford Parish Council, have no parishes or town councils. So why should someone who is a representative of the parish and town councils be talking about Basildon Town Centre, my ward, other places south of the 127? They have no democratic mandate because the people there do not wish to have town or parish councils, excluding Bowers Gifford. So why should they have their say? But I think the real reason why the Tories are dying in a ditch over it, they're trying to defend, and I want to quote the President of America, a loser. Because he stood against Hazel, lost. Stood against Mo, lost. Did he stand against you, Pat? Because he definitely lost. He stood against Emma, he lost. And yet the Tories are saying, oh, he's this representative, independent voice.
Councillor Baker.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Baker as well. Right, and he still lost. So people south of the 127 are very clear about who the Tories really want to keep on the planning with no voting, but able to interfere with Basildon planning matters. One of their own, who the people of Basildon have rejected many more times than that some people have had opt-ins. Now, the crux of this advice is from the Planning Advisory Service. So when we came into power last year, we was on very thin ice, about to lose all planning function. And the advice from the opposition is, take a leaf out of our book, shove both fingers in your ears, stick your tongue out and go la 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 to the planning inspectorate, and that'll solve any serious planning problems. Well, actually, we want to keep hold of planning function. We want to be able to represent residents' views. When we see issues like Essex Highways and other public body consultees, we will need to be able to lobby and challenge them. But why the Conservative Party tonight is dying in a ditch over this, I really do not understand. Please, when it comes to planning, do not call us anti-democratic with what you've done with phase 1 of Dry Street. You took my voice away, you took my ward colleague's voice away, and most importantly, you took away the residents' voice. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To respond to Councillor Myers' amendment, I have sympathy for why he is doing it, but it is unusual. Now, some people on this side will not quite believe the conversation that he said happened with Paz. I do, because I think he's an honourable man. There's just no record of it ever existing. So we'd all have to take that with a pinch of salt. We just heard, I think, Councillor Smith very eloquently describe the fact that what you're asking for is two-tier of member on the planning committee. Because if you have the town and parish councillor sat there, they are opining on what is going on in the majority of the borough, where they have absolutely no say. They're not elected by anyone south of the 127, in most cases, Bowes Gifford aside. So I think it is unfair on a large chunk of the borough for this to continue in this way. I just very gently say to Councillor Blake, giving lectures on predetermination, fella, I'm not sure that we'll take lessons from you on that one. Again, Councillor Smith touched on this, but I do think it is worth pointing out, because Councillor Schrader stands up and whines on for 5 minutes about how we should ignore these people. We should just carry on ignoring them. The planning committee and the planning system and planning full stop for 20 years is in a mess, right? It took this administration coming in to fix it. Why did the Planning Advisory Service turn up last year? It's because you lot, when you were in administration, kept messing it up. Cabinet members sat on the planning committee. We then had, Mr. Mayor, this idea that we can have this undue influence from the ABLC person coming in talking about greenbelt issues and all the rest of it. They want us to ignore MHCLG on the local plan. They want us to ignore the Planning Advisory Service on the ABLC person sitting on the committee. Why would anybody listen to the Conservative Party when it comes to planning? We'll debate later on tonight lots of issues around infrastructure, around highways, around the mess that has been created by a lack of infrastructure coming forward over the last 20 years. But now all of a sudden that they're in opposition, he's found his spine to start calling his government muppets. I mean, where was he just 12 months ago talking about it? Then we've had to listen to Councillor Sargent's contribution. And I have to say, my members, they do the honourable thing and they leave the council chamber if they have a conflict of interest. We have to sit here and listen to Councillor Sargent talking when she's clearly got a conflict of interest on this. But the ABLC representatives, where they could have influence is in the pre-apps, where they could be coming to the technical meetings. But what happens? They don't turn up. Ooh. So they don't come. So where they could be having influence, they don't turn up. When they're grandstanding and are on camera, they're here with bells on. But when they're actually being asked to do the job, they don't turn up to those meetings. So there is this idea that somehow in the last 6 months, when the Labour government has come forward with the Planning and Infrastructure Bill, that somehow the planning committees have lost all influence and that they previously could stop applications and all the rest of it. It's a nonsense. The last government introduced permitted development, where you could get planning consent without ever needing to come to a planning committee for office to residential. They went round this borough talking about how they were going to stop high-rise hell from occurring in the town centre. They didn't stop a single thing. So they turn up at planning committees, they ignore the advice, they vote against it, and has Mark Cottrell influenced any of that? No. What happened was, it was a mess. And the Planning Advisory Service had to come in because this council faced possible designation because we kept voting down things without lawful planning reasons to stop it. Has the ABLC member fixed that? Not a chance. And now we have a report in front of us where what the report from the Planning Advisory Service is saying is get rid of it. And we hear the same voices of failure for 20 years telling us to ignore that advice and to ignore that report. Mr. Mayor, nobody, when it comes to planning anywhere in the borough, should ever listen to that lot ever again. And the final thing I'd say on it is I chair the local council's liaison committee. And I have robust debates at that local council liaison committee. And at the last one, Councillor Jim Devlin couldn't wait to stand up and tell us he was agreeing with me because he thought that lot was an absolute disaster when it comes to planning. So tonight, I urge members to vote against this nonsense amendment and let's get back to the substantive, which in large part was voted through unanimously at the planning committee.
Put the question to the vote.
Okay, so that concludes the debate on the amendment. I now put that to the vote. All those in favour of the amendment, please indicate. All those against? And any abstentions? Thank you. That amendment is not carried. Returning to the substantive, Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one point of clarification. Where did you get that suit from?
The Mayor from Del Monte.
I'm going to get one of those. I won't look as good as you in it, but I think your wife bought you that. She's the one with the style. In the opening comment, it was a statement was made where any member can call in any application. Now, that's not my understanding because during COVID, Councillor Brown brought an item to the planning committee, changed the rules on that, where you could only call it in if you were a member in the ward or an adjacent member. So I don't expect Councillor Callaghan to answer that question now, but I would like clarification on that from the officers, perhaps after the meeting. Thank you.
I have no further members indicating to speak, so we Is there a vote? Yes, there is a vote. A vote is needed on the substantive motion as it stood and as it stands now. All those in favour, please indicate. I'll wait a few moments for the counting to conclude. All those against? And abstentions? Okay, that is carried. Thank you. Moving on to item number 10, the annual report of the Audit and Risk Committee. Call on Councillor Brockman to present the report. You have up to 10 minutes and you do not require a seconder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Please no one ask any questions because I don't know what I'm talking about. It is my honour to present the Chairman's report for the Audit and Risk Committee for the year 24-25. This report highlights our key activities, achievements and the vital role we play in ensuring robust governance and risk management within our Council. The Audit and Risk Committee is a cornerstone of our Council's governance framework. Our primary objective is to provide independent assurance and challenge on the effectiveness of the Council's corporate governance and internal control arrangements. This includes overseeing risk management, financial and non-financial performance and the financial reporting process. Our commitment to maintaining and improving governance arrangements is crucial in enabling the Council to deliver high quality services and achieve its corporate plan. Throughout the year, the committee has undertaken a substantial range of activities, working closely with internal and external auditors. We have developed and implemented a comprehensive work plan which has allowed us to provide independent assurance on the adequacy of the governance and risk management framework, scrutinise the Council's financial and non-financial performance, and oversee the statutory financial reporting process. Our proactive approach ensures that we seek assurance on a range of issues rather than merely accepting it where given. This has fostered a culture of continuous improvement and accountability within the Council. The committee has received regular updates on the Council's governance arrangements, allowing us to challenge and contribute to the development of the governance framework. We have also focused on counter-fraud and corruption measures, ensuring that effective arrangements are in place. Risk management remains a key priority. We have been regularly updated on the Council's risk profiles, including corporate risks, significant risks and key project risks. The Audit and Risk Committee Working Group has played a vital role in reviewing selected Council risks, such as benefit fraud, homelessness and maintaining a sustainable financial position. The committee has been actively involved in the financial reporting process. Despite ongoing challenges with external audit resources, we have worked diligently to ensure transparency and accountability. We have reviewed the draft annual financial report for 23-24 and provided updates on the progress of outstanding audits. In addition to our governance and risk management responsibilities, the committee has reviewed and challenged the Council's capital and investment strategy. We have scrutinised the annual report on capital, investment and treasury management activities, ensuring that the Council's financial strategies
strategies aligned with its long-term goals. In conclusion, I am satisfied that the Audit and Risk Committee has provided effective challenge and assurance across a range of governance-related issues. Our work has contributed to the Council's overall governance and control environment, ensuring that systems of internal control are working effectively. I would like to extend my gratitude to all members of the committee for their proactive contributions and to the officers for their support and assistance. Together we have facilitated constructive challenge and continuous improvement within the Council. As we look forward to 25-26, I am confident that the committee will continue to perform its duties with diligence and integrity, providing a robust and worthwhile function for the Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brockman. The matter is now open for debate. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to start by pretty much speaking on this issue to say thank you. In the last autumn, I was talking to your predecessor, former Councillor Gary Canham. I was painting some wooden posts I'd installed with some county money, and I thought, if I don't get them painted, I'll have to have all this aggravation with county getting these posts. So I was out there painting brush and was talking with Gary. It's fine weather as it is today. And we was talking about the issue of external auditors. How up and down the country, councils are being messed around by them. And I said to him, a conversation I had with the former Cabinet Member for Highways at Essex, the Councillor Lee Scott. And the external auditors asked him, they wanted to know the financial value of every lamppost, street sign, keep left sign, bits of pavement, curbs, just to pad the work out and get the thing done. And when people don't see councils have had their external auditors in and signing off, it puts a cloud over that council. So it's a very difficult circumstance you've had. And I think your predecessor, former Councillor Gary Canham, done a good job. We might have been different sides of the political fence, but we have to speak fair. I'm the first to have a poke, and I'm the first to tell it as it is. And you've taken over that role quite well, Councillor Brockman, but it is very difficult with external auditors that aren't pulling their weight. And it's not just here, even County Hill's getting messed about them. So it's not only a thanks to yourself, but your committee and your officers. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Brockman, for your updates. I look forward to continuing your good work this year. The committee does great work keeping the council in check and ensuring our internal processes are running smoothly. But of course, I'm under no illusion that the task ahead, with audits outstanding from 2020-2021 onwards, and it will be my primary focus for this year to get these up to date. I am pleased in Councillor Brockman's report that it says that all audits from 2020-21 to 23-24 will come to the committee early this municipal year, and I look forward to holding BDO to that and seeing these audits as soon as possible. We know this is not just a Basildon issue, and councils up and down the country, as Councillor Smith has said, are struggling to get their audits up to date. But it is clear with LGR just around the corner that Basildon audits must be up to date as soon as possible in preparation for this, so that Basildon councillors and residents know exactly where their council's finances are up to, and ensure that that the borough is in a strong position to become a unitary once we've seen the back of Essex County Council. So thank you for your chairmanship of the committee, Councillor Brockman. I look forward to working with yourself, other members of the committee, officers and our external auditors in the year ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. I have no further indication.
You can't miss Kevin.
Councillor Blake.
Just a bit on a light side, I'd love to see Kerry with keep less sign for one. We'll be supporting this. However, I do question sometimes your sanity, if I'm being honest. When you're a person there that actually thinks that John Terry, Joe Cole and Frank Lampard are world-class players, I will support you, but I do think you're losing it. Private joke.
Thank you. This report is for noting and there is no vote. Councillor Brockman, did you want to wind up?
Only to say that if Kevin Blake thinks that anyone from Manchester United is a decent player, he's sorely disillusioned.
Thank you. That item is concluded. Item number 11, appointments to the committee and outside bodies. Councillor Callan, I call upon you as the leader of the council to present the report. You have 10 minutes and do not require a seconder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I don't wish to detain council for too long on this. Clearly, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, there are by-elections happening at the moment, and because of that, there are therefore vacancies and there are issues around membership of committees, which we are trying to tidy up here, and we're also trying to provide a delegation so that, depending on the outcome of that election, members of the committees can be appointed to their various different roles so that the business of the council can continue and we're not having to wait until September for people to be put onto committees and be able to do their jobs. I'm hoping that this is, again, fairly straightforward. It's probably a bit of an interim measure until we get beyond the next few weeks and we see how the land lies and whether or not that is going to impact on proportionality. And clearly, if that does, then group leaders will be asked to meet with the MO to go through what that all looks like as per the recommendation here. But I don't wish to talk about it for too much longer unless people want to. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. The matter is open for debate. Do I have any speakers? Councillor... Oh, it's gone. What's your name? Barnes. Councillor Barnes.
I'm glad I've made such an impression, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much. First of all, is everybody warm enough? Yeah, good. Right, I'm glad. Look, at the end of the day, this is going to sail through tonight. You guys have got the numbers for now. But I do think it's worth mentioning it is disappointing that you haven't taken the opportunity to perhaps widen this so that councillors from other parties are more involved, particularly with the scrutiny function, which is now dominated by the ruling party. The previous Labour leader of the administration, the now very sadly dearly departed Councillor Eku, was very critical of the previous Conservative administration when they had their own councillors running ONS. And last year when I was Vice Chairman of Overview and Scrutiny, and of course the late Councillor Harrison was chairing it, it seemed to function perfectly well. My kind offer to be the new chairman appears not to have been taken up, and instead it will be for Councillor Hilliard to take on the role, and we wish him well. But whilst it is your administration and you can do as you wish, I do think that you've missed an opportunity here to widen things and help give us better governance by having councillors with a different approach and a different perspective in that scrutiny area in particular. And for that reason, we won't be supporting this. We will vote against it. And the damage ultimately is done for this year. But I do hope you will reflect on it as an administration and perhaps take a different approach going forward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Barnes. Are there any other indications to speak? No. Okay, then Councillor Callahan, you have 5 minutes to wrap up. No. Okay, we vote on it. Thank you. All those in favour of the order paper, item number 11, please show. Is that counted? All those against? And abstentions? Okay, that is carried. Thank you. I'm now going to call a 20-minute break so we can get some fresh air. See you again in 20 minutes. Thank you. Thank you, members. You return to your seats. We will resume with the meeting. We now are at item 12, notices of motion. The first motion is to be moved by Councillor Kerry Smith. I call upon Councillor Smith to speak and present his motion. Do you have a seconder?
Yeah, please.
Councillor Larkin. Thank you. You have 10 minutes for your motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I shall just read out the motion. This council has no faith in Essex Highways with the planning process. Council seeks Essex Highways to undertake the following request to improve their services to ensure the borough gets the infrastructure it needs when planning permission is sought and gained. 1. That a representative from Essex Highways will attend meetings of the Planning Committee. 2. That they will consult with elected county and borough councillors before they give their view on a planning application. 3. That Essex Highways will push to obtain the maximum amounts in payments due from developers to help improve improvements to public transport and highway safety. Should this motion pass, the leader takes this case with both Essex County Council and the government. I think that motion's pretty clear. I shall now go on to give some examples behind this. When I was first elected in 2013 to the County Council, at the local highways panel, we was asked to contribute £250,000 from our then budget to help finance a set of traffic lights across Cherrydown to Trafford House. That's in my ward, in my division, and I thought, oh, that doesn't seem an unreasonable request. And then the truth came out. Essex Highways underquoted, so the taxpayer was saving the housing developer for the flats money on the cost of the crossing, and the Essex County Council had been banking the money, and if we didn't top it up, the money would have to go back to the developer, but the county would keep the interest. And the County Council made £37,000 pure profit by sitting on that 1/6 agreement payment. The panel obviously wasn't going to do was fund this if we would have set a precedent. And our budget is meant for highway safety. Essex Highways failed to quote accurately. I personally think they overcharge their quotes for the jobs they do. And I've spoken on GB News about that to Jacob Rees-Mogg. And he agreed with me, £4,500 for a wooden post, where Basildon Council can do it for the same job for £100. No wonder we've got better finances. Not too much income, because the county gets the bulk of it. And thankfully, when Trafford House sought planning permission, they wanted to put a set of traffic lights in. The developer was going to pay, but Essex Highways, which is a privately owned company, thought, oh, no, we will do the work, you'll pay our prices. And I had a chat with our officer, Christine Loynes, and she went, well, we've granted it planning permission, do you want me to do planning enforcement against Essex Highways? I went, what, you drinking? No, she said, we'll do that. And then it all got permission, the new set of lights was fitted by the owners of Trafford House, and the paving outside Basildon Station, instead of broken paving slabs, commuters using and abusing it. But that's just one example. I've spoken with Councillor Richard Moore on this subject many a times, what's in my motion today. He's had obviously a few planning applications in his ward stroke division. And I said to Richard, you're chairman of the local highways panel, you're a member of the administration. Can't you have any sway over Essex Highways to get what residents raised in objections to that planning application to be funded? Bit of new crossing, bus stops, bus routes, etc. He goes, I do try and I try, and it's a shame he's not here tonight, and I'm sure he's not here for a very good reason. But I can give an example that is pertinent in my ward, and I'm not seeking to subjugate or twist or sway anyone's view, but there's an application in my ward, the Evans Primary School, fine, be a bit controversial, but I think it will get passed because it's been in so many iterations of the local plan. But the issue residents have locally, there is no proper crossing outside of Vange Primary School. Now, The developer's going to build X amount of houses behind the site. We own the home-based site, so it's going to get built at some point. So why should the limited budget of the local highways panel be spent installing a traffic light crossing when we've got a developer who's going to make lawful, legitimate, wholesome profits from building homes? So I get an email as the local county councillor from Essex Highways saying, and Councillor will be able to bear up with me and Councillor McGarren and Councillor Pat Reid and Councillor Emma Callaghan, when there's a planning notification in your ward, Essex Highways just copies you in. They don't ask for your views, it's the views of Essex Highways, it's their opinions. So getting back to this school, they just want some minor highway work, very cheap stuff, for the developer to pay. And I said to this highway officer, the local highways panel needs the finances, because it doesn't have the finances, to widen the London Road and put that zebra crossing there. But it's a busy old road. I mean, if something happens on the A13, loads of traffic goes up and down that road. There's a speed camera there because someone got knocked over before I was the councillor. People still put flowers there. And yet Essex Highways' view was, oh no, that's all the developer has to pay for. It's minor highway works. They don't need to pay for that crossing. Go away, County Councillor Smith. Go away, go away, go away. We're the fountain of all knowledge. So when that application comes to plan, again, I'm not trying to twist anyone's mind. I hope everyone, if anyone feels like I'm trying to twist their mind in that application, please say and I'll shut up, but that's not my intention. But when this application is heard by the planning committee, I'm sure there will be residents and myself will be turning up to say, look, we need a traffic light controlled crossing there. A traffic island refuge is not enough. And our officer Christine Loynes, Chairman of Planning, Councillor Larkin, I'm sure Councillor Myers and Councillor Blake are equally quick to point out planning rules where they see it as fact and rules, will say to me, the planning committee can't refuse planning permission because the developer is not going to pay for a crossing. You can't refuse it, and they're right. They would be right to say that. But Essex Highways are not pushing these developers to pay to put things right in their area. If you're putting more cars in a location, then the developer should be paying for all highway safety measures. And there's various applications, I'm sure members will have different examples to give, be it improve local transport, be it better access for vehicles to come on and off. There will be all sorts. I've sat pretty much with Councillor Reid is sitting now at a planning committee to make representations at an application in my division. And I've heard planning applications on things that's well outside my ward and my area. And members of the public have come along to speak, some ward councillors, to say that you can't pass this because it's dangerous because of this highway safety point, blah, blah, blah. And what is commonly said at the planning meeting? Where is Essex Highways? They are not here to answer your questions. You do better to phone up the Mystic Meg hotline than get Essex Highways to ask a legitimate question from a hard-working, decent taxpayer in the borough who has given up their time to speak at one of our planning committee meetings. But Essex Highways feel it is beneath them to come here and answer questions from the people who pay their wages. So I think this isn't about bashing or war, this is about getting a better outcome for residents. We've spoken earlier about planning applications and the like. Essex Highways should start off by consulting with the local county and borough councillors to make sure that application is best for the local residents. And when the application is sought, be in this very room, answering the questions and seeking to make that application best for all concerned. I'll leave it there, Mr. Mayor, and thank you members for your indulgence. This is purely and simply about getting a better outcome for our hard-working, decent residents against people who still think COVID's on and they've got every right to work from home and 4 hours to open the door for the Amazon man.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Larkin, a seconder, do you wish to speak?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor. Tonight I will be supporting this motion. Let me explain why. The Planning Committee and Ward Councillors regularly need to ask questions on highways, and most importantly at committee level. Our Highways Officer is based at Essex County Council in Chelmsford and declines our invitations to attend any meetings or briefings in person. In over a year, he has only contributed once at a briefing online. Not good enough, in fact, very poor. Infrastructure is paramount on large planning applications. Why? Because the main issues are highway. Our small country lanes for access are congested, narrow and not suitable sometimes for major planning schemes. Do we get our lion's share of improvements? No. Our ward councillors and planning committee members live in the borough and know our roads. We have many questions to ask this individual, but he declines our invitations. Our planning officers find this difficult to support his reports. So important in respect of applications for grant or refusal. We have our County Council Highways panel. They need to send this message, not to keep kicking it into the long grass. What's your problem? Now you know why we need a unitary authority. To have our own highways officer that is familiar with our highways and roads, that has not got a problem with Basildon, and is there to defend their decisions in their reports. 3 reasons why we need a unitary. Duty to our borough to get things right. Are we getting a good service? No. Highways and infrastructure is the main factor on good planning decisions. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Councillor Larkin. Now open to debate. Councillor Sharda.
Thank you, sir. Well, I may have to take a shower after this meeting because I find myself agreeing with Councillor Smith. This won't come as news to anyone who's known me over the past decade or so. I've been saying for years that Essex Highways about as much use as a handbrake on a canoe. Anyone who serves on planning knows this. Nobody could possibly disagree with this assessment. I'm not talking out of school either. I've said this publicly many times at countless planning meetings. At the risk of belabouring the point, Mr. Mayor, we get fobbed off. You've served on the committee, you know this. You get reports, Essex Highways raises no objections. And you're thinking to yourself, are they stark staring mad? Nobody from Highways can possibly have come and actually looked at this road. Because you know, it's your ward, you live near it, you've driven there yourself, you know there isn't capacity, or you can see a clear potential for danger. So it becomes impossible to reconcile Highways signing it off. Worse, it leaves members on the committee completely snookered because you can't refuse an application on highway safety grounds without an objection from the local highways authority. This was always made very clear to us by the legal advisor. It's impossible to sustain a refusal at appeal on highway safety grounds without a formal objection from the LHA. Because the planning inspector will take one look at it and say, well, the LHA says it's fine, and they're the professional experts. If there was a danger, they'd have said so, you'd think. I suspect what we get, Mr. Mayor, is faceless desktop studies. Whenever I've challenged Highways on this, they've denied it. But I've seen too many inexplicable responses from them where they've signed something off, which I know is going to be absolute murders. It's only explicable if they've looked on Google Maps and done a simple box-ticking exercise, because anyone who actually went on site and did a proper thorough inspection, took the time to speak to councillors, local residents, would, in most cases, readily see the issues being experienced by people who already live there. Now, whatever the truth of it, the fact remains that there is currently no effective mechanism for councillors to challenge these decisions by highways officers. Although they're statutory consultees on all planning applications, elected members are afforded no opportunity to challenge them or question their findings. I made a couple of spirited attempts to raise this seriously with Highways eons ago. I had support from one of our then county councillors, Kay Twitchin. We took it up with the cabinet member. Nothing changed. Nothing ever does. I've spoken to successive Cabinet members for Highways about it. It is what it is because it's not really, whisper it, it's not really a political issue. I suspect it's a resource issue and a matter of how the professional officers interpret their statutory responsibilities and discharge them. So, by all means, I'll vote for the motion because I'm all for giving Highways a good kicking, frankly, but don't expect anything to change. The idea, Highways are going to send an officer to every meeting of every planning committee across all 12 boroughs, city and district councils across the county that serve as local planning authorities, I'm not sure I think that's particularly reasonable anyway. It's not a realistic expectation. I do think, however, that it's perfectly reasonable for them to supply an officer to attend a meeting upon request by the chairman where we know Highways matters are going to be particularly germane to that specific application. I certainly think there should be an opportunity for ward councillors to feed into the process and raise Highways issues directly with Highways officers before they sign it off on the safety of a particular scheme. Number 3, I'd hope they're doing already. I've no doubt the motion will pass, and I wish the leader well in his attempts to wring these commitments out of Essex Highways, though given his general attitude to and with ECC generally, I doubt he's going to find a receptive audience at County Hall, but Highways certainly are a shower, so for once he'll have my tacit approval when he duffs them up. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sharda. Councillor Blake.
Thank you, Mayor. I've said this many times at the planning committee. Probably everyone, and probably bored of it when I say it. As far as I'm concerned, county have been in disgrace regarding this. For all the years that I've been on the planning committee, and I'm not going to suddenly stand here and try and play politics and say everything's rosy. It's not. It's been a disgrace, and it's continued to be a disgrace. Personally, to say that to represent come to every planning meeting is pie in the sky, purely on the basis the last one we had lasted about 20 minutes and we didn't discuss anything about planning. It was about pinging this motion that we had earlier for full council. So having that in there, I think maybe it should be major developments, which is 10 and plus, then maybe you've got something to hang your coat on. So I can understand that. And I think Councillor Schrader mentioned already, to have an officer from county come and visit on every planning application throughout the county, because if we do it, everyone else is going to do it. Go out the county to come and speak to ward councillors on every planning application really is, if you actually think about it, it's nonsensical. It really is. But it's in there. I want to give county a good kicking as well, so I'll support it. But if you actually think that through, it's not going to happen, and you can't blame county for actually rejecting that part of it. I'd have much rather seen that part of it taken out and just concentrate and give them a real good bashing and asking them to come to major plan applications, which I believe is every over 10 houses. So we'll support it, but everything Billericay and Burstead, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blake. I have no further speakers. Councillor Smith, do you wish to wrap up? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This one was, it sells itself. It's like an ice cream at Southend. With weather like this, it just sells itself. There was a thing I missed out in my introductory speech presenting this, and I'm obliged to Councillor Turner. There was something in my division in Grove Avenue, a HMO, and Councillor Turner's nodding his head, he's remembering it, and with your support, members of the planning committee, it got refused. And Essex Highways said, oh, it's fine, it's not a problem, parking's not a problem. If anyone Googles Grove Avenue, it's a very narrow road. And if you have cars parked up, nothing gets down there, unless it's a mobility scooter. So it got refused, and I asked to see the Highways report, and they'd done screenshots from Google Street View, taken in the afternoon. And it was a very nice HMO. It was professionals working higher up in Basildon Hospital who'd be busy out working during the day. But rather than Essex Highways coming down doing their job, work from home, tap, 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 long before work from home was the norm. Screenshot, yeah, it's fine. I slightly politely take this slightly different view to the two Conservative members, Councillor Strade and Councillor Blake, saying you shouldn't have them at every meeting. Well, I'm a great fan of the guy in the White House and the art of the deal. you go at them with the hardest option and negotiate back from there, which I have absolute confidence in our leader to go hard after county and make them an offer they can't refuse, because they're being put out of business. They'll be looking for new contracts. Essex won't be able to sign them any new contracts. And if this motion passes tonight, the leader will have permission from council to get us the better deal. And if Essex Highways wants to play silly, when we become unitary, they best not knock on the leader's door, unless they're on all fours wishing to apologise. And that wouldn't wash with the leader. You have your integrity. So I'd like to thank members for their time tonight. This is very important. We're representing our residents against some people who, quite frankly, shouldn't have a job at McDonald's because you can't fry home chips from home. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. I now put this motion to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate. Coalition. All those against? All those against? And abstentions, please. 1. Thank you. That motion is carried. Moving on to motion 2, to be moved by Councillor Emma Callaghan. Thank you. You have 10 minutes to present your motion. Do you have a seconder?
I do. Yes, it's Councillor Jess Power.
Councillor Power. Thank you. You have 10 minutes starting from now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move this motion tonight, seconded by Councillor Jess Power, the Cabinet Member for Regeneration. I've been a councillor here for just over a year. In that time, I've sat through half a dozen of these meetings, met and spoken to a lot of our residents and read countless comments online. And one thing is clear. We've got two schools of thought in this chamber. There are those who say, we need more homes, let's build, let's deliver the new schools, the doctors, the nurseries, the roads, let's just get on with it. Then there are those who say, stop building. We don't need the infrastructure, no schools, no doctors, no roads. We need houses, but just not here. But both sides, every single councillor in this room, agree on one thing. We don't have the infrastructure we need. Our towns are growing, but the roads are crumbling. The schools are oversubscribed. Our communities are asked to do more with less, and it's a deep source of frustration for everyone here. We see the potholes, we sit in the traffic, we all do the 8 AM rush to grab a GP appointment if we need one. And we all have to pray for our kids to get into the schools on our own doorsteps. And every time we ask what's happening, we're told it's county's responsibility. We don't have the levers to make things happen ourselves. We're stuck between developers and a detached county council that hasn't shown any urgency to deliver what's been promised. And that's the truth. Essex County Council is detached. Detached from the public, detached from the people it's supposed to serve. So detached that I've seen people go there as politicians, local champions, sent to represent their communities, ending up as policy wonks and technocrats, arguing over whether a town is 0.2 of a child short of qualifying for a new school. It's total nonsense. Our residents aren't just percentage points on a page. They live in towns where they can't get a school place, where Rydeen Primary can't fund a properly sized sports hall, forcing parents to choose which one of them gets to see their child perform in the school play, where the new Chapel Hill School, which took years to open, was too small from day one. And now we learn this. Essex County Council is sitting on £140.4 million of unspent Section 106 funding. Money that was meant legally to deliver infrastructure. Schools, GP surgeries, roads, public transport, nurseries. It was meant for people, for places, and for real lives. And instead it sat in a bank account, gathering dust, and God knows how much interest. Basildon's done its part. In just 1 year, this administration has approved 1,100 homes, bring in £16 million in infrastructure contributions, including £8 million for education alone. We're bringing the investment, we're unlocking the land, and we're backing regeneration. But will that money ever be spent on the roads, the schools, and the surgeries we were promised? Not if Essex has anything to do with it. Look at the Starlight scheme we welcomed this week. 500 homes, 69 shops, thousands of jobs, £171 million of private investment into our town. And with it, nearly £2 million in local infrastructure funds for schools, transport, and early years provision. But will Essex spend that money? Will it reach the classrooms and the bus routes and the nurseries? 50 years of evidence says no. Or if it does, it'll be too little, too late. And worse, we don't even know if that's the full picture. Have they handed any of it back to developers? Has money been returned because they failed to spend it on time? We need answers, and instead we get pats on the head and contradictions. Councillor Louise McKinley says, build homes first, then deliver the schools. Councillor Baggett always says the opposite. We need infrastructure first. Two different Tories with two different stories, and the same result, nothing gets delivered. Meanwhile, our residents are stuck. Stuck in traffic, stuck on waiting lists, stuck watching their towns grow while services fall behind. It's no wonder they're all voting for you-know-who in protest. Because they know the money exists, they just don't see it working for them. Because once you lose public trust, once people believe you've taken the money but not delivered on the promise, it's almost impossible to win it back. And we hear all this talk about Doge, about cuts, about waste, but county councils across the country are sitting on millions of pounds that should already have been spent. And ours is no different. As Essex nears the end of its long, slow decline, as we prepare for local government reorganisation, every single penny of that Section 106 money must find its way to Basildon Borough. Basildon wants its money. Basildon needs its infrastructure. And if Essex won't spend it, give it to us and we'll deliver it ourselves. That's what this motion is about. We're calling for a full breakdown of the unspent funds for Basildon, a clear plan to spend the money or hand it over, a public transparent conversation with our residents, and a direct political intervention from our leader. Because it's not enough to just raise this quietly. We're done waiting for county to do the right thing. It's in no one's interest to vote against this tonight. Not if you care about growth, not if you care about fairness, not if you care about the communities we serve. Basildon wants its money. Basildon needs its infrastructure. Please support the motion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. Councillor Power.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Councillor Emma Callaghan. I'm in full support of this motion. It is about financial failing, but it's also a broader issue of trust and ambition. Trust between tiers of government and the ambition for the future of Basildon. I've said it already tonight, Basildon is building, rising and getting better. You can literally see it outside the window. But we cannot do so with one hand tied behind our back. While in Basildon we deliver, Essex County Council is sitting doing nothing with unspent contributions. Money that should already be delivering school places, improving GP access, easing congestion and investing in the very infrastructure that supports our regeneration. It's the biggest question we're asked, and it's the one that we should be able to answer. Let's be clear, Section 106 is not a wish list, it's a legal obligation, a promise that we make to communities that new development will come with the investment needed to make it sustainable. When that promise is broken or endlessly delayed, it undermines public confidence, delays our growth, and weakens our ability to attract new investment. Our residents deserve so much better. This is about accountability. We are not content to sit still and do nothing. We want to grow, but we want to grow well. That means having the ability to deliver the infrastructure to support our communities, not after the fact, not when it's too late, but actually at the point of need. We're not asking for charity or something extra, just to be able to deliver a full and effective regeneration that our borough deserves. So I urge colleagues across this chamber to support this motion and Basildon's ability to lead its own regeneration, because we're clearly proving we are more than capable on our own 2 feet.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Barnes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't think it's going to come as a massive shock to anybody to learn that we are not going to support this motion as a Conservative group. And I think it's worth noting that this is a nakedly political motion. It's clearly designed to make a political point. And given we had a question rejected on car parking on the grounds that it was too political to take place during a by-election period, it does seem strange that this one has been allowed to sail through. Not only that, but we had a question on car parking from Councillor Walter Brown as well. So look, let's acknowledge something. Delivering infrastructure is complex. It requires coordination across multiple agencies, strict legal frameworks, and above all, patience. Section 106 money is not a blank cheque. It is allocated to specific projects, often tied to the phasing of developments. So the suggestion that Essex County Council is simply sitting on money isn't just misleading, it is fundamentally wrong. Allow me to bring some facts, clarity and a bit of balance to this discussion. The numbers in this motion have not even got a passing resemblance to reality. Essex County Council is not sitting on £140 million of investment. The administration have repeated this claim time and again, and every time it is found wanting. The facts, Mr. Mayor, is that Essex County Council spends more in Basildon than it receives from Basildon. Taxpayers in Basildon get a good deal out of Essex County Council, and they may well find after the proposed local government reforms go through that they miss it when it is gone. The facts, Mr. Mayor, show that Essex County Council haven't failed to allocate the funding in their education budget. They've actually allocated every single penny. That's right, every single pound, shilling and pence is already allocated to be spent on projects. More facts, Mr. Mayor. The transport and infrastructure budget, can we guess how much of that remains unallocated? Does anyone want to guess? 10 million?
Or
20
at least,
million?
yeah, 20.
20 million. Higher, lower? You can play that game if you want. The answer again is zero.
No.
Nothing. I know. Shocking, isn't it? All of the funding allocated for projects designed to boost local businesses and improve residents' lives. And then let's look at another fact. How much of Basildon's Section 106 money of the administration failed to spend? What percentage do we think that is? Anyone care to hazard a guess? 40%. Anyone want to go higher than 40%?
Yeah, I'll go 45.
45%. 98.5% is the answer. Can you believe it? That's right. 98.5% of all the Section 106 money this administration has yet to be spent. And yet they have the nerve to blame Essex County Council for their own shortcomings and failures. The truth, Mr. Mayor, is that this motion is one from a crumbling administration looking to distract residents from their own disastrous decisions. They seem to have adopted the strange tactic of calling for the 2026 elections to be suspended while ensuring residents get their say in a series of rolling by-elections. To lose one councillor, Mr. Mayor, could be called unlucky, but to lose two in a week is frankly careless. We have Muslim councillors standing down whilst other councillors are forced out of the Labour group for anti-Islamic tweets. We have spiralling debt and unfunded regeneration schemes. And now we have a pathetic attempt to blame the county council for their failure to deliver. Yeah. Their credibility is disappearing quicker than their members and their Twitter feeds, Mr. Mayor. Residents have made their views clear. They've had enough of this nonsense, and it's time for this administration to face facts and stop trying to palm the blame off on others. Thank you.
Thank you. Remember, we're in Purdah. Councillor Callaghan.
Right, I was going to be nice, but I'm not now. Let's be clear. I won't take lectures from anyone over there who sat there with Councillor Purver as their leader, and we told you very clearly in full council last September, and you didn't act and you didn't do anything for it. So I won't take any lectures from any of you about standards. On this side of the chamber, we act if there is issues. Right? I show leadership of my party. I'm not led by mine the way that they were on that side. And let me also say this. He has repeated lies tonight from Councillor Louise McKinley, who wants to be the mayor of this county, and she's doing about as good a job at that as they are at winning Wickford Park. Right? So let me be really clear. last year, Basildon Council, since we came back, has spent over £6 million on one development at Chapelgate. That is by far and away more money that is even in the 106 pot right now. So we haven't spent 1.something%, as Councillor McKinley told Essex County Council. We've spent over £6 million, which is more than Essex County Council have spent here in the last year as well. So she was factually incorrect then, and he is factually incorrect tonight. This is the problem when you're trying to give it a go, but actually all you're doing is you're using County Council's made-up lines because they're your masters in Chelmsford. And let me give you a couple of examples of what I'm talking about. Let's talk about Langdon and the School Avenue estate in Langdon. There is over £200,000 of 106 money in the budget for a new bus network to take people from that School Avenue estate to Langdon Station every morning. What are they waiting for? The estate has been finished for the last 10 years. They've never spent the money on getting that bus service up and running. They should. They should put that money into our pockets so that we can do it. Let's talk about Chapel Hill School in Langdon Hills. So he says that every penny of the education budget, no wonder he's running away, he doesn't want to hear it, right? Every penny of the education budget was spent. That's what he just said. Go and speak to the people that live close to the Chapel Hill development, right? Go and ask them whether or not the school is big enough. Because already the county councillor responsible for education, Tony Ball, who did a great job here and now is doing an even better job over there, right? He built a school, it just wasn't big enough to cope after 9 months. So you've got residents queuing up, asking for education money to extend Chapel Hill School 9 months after it opened. That should have been built and it should have been big enough to take multiple years of entry from the moment it opened its doors last September. He says that taxpayers are getting a good deal out of Essex County Council. Stick that on a leaflet and see what happens. As I can tell you now, nobody agrees that we are getting a good deal here in Basildon from Essex County Council. He says that I'm making the figures up. The figures are from the National House Builders Federation, who have been asking questions consistently about why across the country county councils are sat on hundreds of millions of pounds, bordering on billions of pounds for infrastructure, and they haven't bothered to spend them. So last year, when we put this figure out, the figure was around 130 million. It's gone up by over 10 million pounds in the last 6 months alone. So he says we've got to be patient. I do not understand how long the people of Langdon are supposed to wait to get their bus service 10 years after the housing development has been finished. He was a Langdon councillor. He should know about it. I'd have no idea how long the people of Langdon were supposed to wait for the Highways bond to be signed on the Langdon shopping centre. So let's put that into context. They say infrastructure takes time, we've got to be patient. Jeff Henry, in 2 years, couldn't get Essex County Council to sign a piece of paper that said the Highways bond issue is okay, you can get cracking on building the Langdon shopping centre. It took me 2 weeks to get that over the line. And let me be clear about something else as well. Every single planning application that comes before this committee includes money for infrastructure. Every single one of them, right? And as Councillor Emma Callaghan explained, £16.7 million. That's our record. In 1 year, we generated, as an administration, £16.7 million, of which £8 million were for new schools in this borough. The problem, quite rightly, that the public have is that they have got no trust and confidence, neither do I, that the schools will actually be built to scale, to size, to the requirements of the local Basildon public, because Essex County Council are responsible for sitting on that money. So I just say gently to the opposition, if your position tonight is that you are going to go out to the public 7 days before you know what and tell them that this borough has all the infrastructure it needs, and that Essex County Council are doing a stand-up job, and that there isn't a penny more that should be coming out. It is no wonder you are getting your asses handed to you, and you deserve it.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. Minus the language. Okay, Councillor Schrader.
I'm not going to drop an F-bomb. No. I'm not that competitive. Mr. Mayor, it was going so well. As much as I'd like to agree with Councillor Mrs. Callaghan, as I did with Councillor Smith, regrettably, while Councillor Smith was talking good sense for a change, Councillor Callaghan is, as she well knows, being rather disingenuous. She knows full well the 140 million she refers to covers the whole county and is not unspent. As Councillor Barnes has said, Basildon Council has already been told this. It's allocated and committed to various projects across Essex, and as he said, these aren't quick or straightforward to deliver, though Essex, to be fair, has delivered a range of initiatives. These projects have a lot of moving parts, a lot of pettifogging bureaucracy to go through, which would be the case whether delivered by county or district level authorities, or dare I say it, these magical new unitaries. Ultimately, it seems to me her real beef is with the effectiveness of Section 106 agreements to deliver money for infrastructure and mitigations to support developments, with which I would be in complete agreement with her. With all the added complexities and costs loaded onto 106s in recent years, so first homes, nutrient neutrality, biodiversity net gain, etc., you'd be forgiven for wondering who actually stands to benefit nowadays. Personally, I don't think they're fit for purpose. Developers get their way and have become very canny at wriggling out of their responsibilities. The money comes, if it comes at all, too late and frequently fails to go into the right things. Drafting of 106 agreements seems to me to be largely led by developers, more interested in shoring up their bottom line than ameliorating the impact of their schemes on existing residents. So I'm all for looking seriously at 106. I don't think they work. The outgoing government's proposal was for a new infrastructure levy, but that's been abandoned by the Labour government. At present, it's unclear what they intend to do instead. Maybe she'll ask her colleague, my old friend, the Cabinet Member for Housing and Infrastructure, when she's recovered, which I hope she will do very, very soon, to write to the Secretary of State in Whitehall and ask what the plan is. But I'm afraid I'm not minded to support her motion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Smith, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will come at it from a different point of view. I am in support of this. Number one, the government is trying to grow the economy. There is £140 million that doesn't have to be borrowed, doesn't have to be taxed. County all's just sitting on it. It's almost like those bad characters in that James Bond film, The Living Daylights, profiteering from the interest. Rather than do what needs to be done, profiteer from the interest. And I gave that example in Cherrydown with Morello Quarter, where they made 37 grand by not installing the traffic lights. And if the developers of Trafford House didn't come along, there'd be no traffic lights there. Our staff who work for us, who park at car park, thought we'd taken their life in their hands. But good old county, 37 grand. Just think Ringway Jacobs could charge that for a pothole. If they can charge £4.5 grand for a piece of wood in the ground, I might be undercharging their prices. But in my division, where my colleagues serve in the independent group, there's the new school for Wesley Green, Chapel Hill, myself and my colleagues, particularly Councillor Larkin, we fought hard to get the Lee Chapel Academy as the academy for that school. The pen pusher at County had his eye on some not so good people. I won't say bad things on them, but they weren't the best. But we got the public engaged, and it was like, yeah, we want Lee Chapel to run it. And when it sought planning permission for the Wesley Green development, I opposed it. I was representing my constituents. A member on the opposition bench, he said, well, these are homes for executives. There's a shortage of them. Okay, so that's a fair comment. Now they're pretty much built. So if you're an executive, you've got an executive car, you've got an executive job, you've got executive hours to keep, There's a school just there, but your kid can't get in it because county are sitting on the money. You're not going to get your second form of entry till 2028. They're telling the parents now, if you can't get in your kid in the school that you can see out your bedroom window or kitchen window, whatever window, you can send your kid to schools in Langdon Park, in proper Langdon Hills, Lee Chapel North, because the money follows the kids. That's why they're doing it. It's not for the kids' benefit. Now, how do we, now we've got these executive houses here, attract executive people when they have a look and have a little Google around and go, oh, we've got a new school, but you can't get in it because the county won't open a second form of interest because they're sitting on the money. I won't come to Basildon. And a lot of those people living there are working senior positions at Basildon Hospital. I would like, and I'm sure everyone in this room would like, the very best medical people filling any vacancies at Basildon Hospital, wouldn't you? It's common sense. But it's all about county. Penny wise, pound stupid. Because when someone goes, oh, well, OK, the little girl I've got, go to Chapel Hill, I'm going to have to take you to Maryland to the boy, and that drive round till 2028. How incredibly stupid that is. What does that say about Basildon? People think it's us, and when you tell them it's the county council, there's a lot of people have moved from, you know, better off places in London to Wesley Green, where it's one-tier authorities, and they just don't understand it. And I went, well, where you come from in Hornchurch, they had the good sense to break away from Essex in 1965, and they've never come crawling back. So, we want to grow the economy, we want to make things better for the people. Either county makes that investment now, or they give us the money and we get the job done. Because quite frankly, you can see why they frank their mail, because they ain't competent enough to lick a stamp on an envelope.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Smith. That is the end of the debate. I call upon Councillor Callaghan to wind up 5 minutes. Thank you.
I'll be very brief, Mr. Mayor. I'll just say, same old Tories, same old stories. Thank you for the pat on the head, Councillor Barnes. Thank you for telling me what my real beef is, Councillor Schrader. Anyone in this borough, any resident who's watching our roads fall to pieces, who hears you defending full-throatedly Essex County Council, will never ever take you seriously again. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, please show. All those against? And abstentions, please. 1. Okay, thank you. That motion is passed. Thank you. Moving on to the third motion tonight, to move by Councillor Barnes. Do you have a seconder, Councillor Barnes? Councillor Schrader. Thank you, Councillor Barnes. You have up to 10 minutes to present your motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, I think I've just made, by what is, by any measure, a fairly political speech, probably upset one or two people. This motion is the opposite of that. This is a motion that I hope everyone in this chamber can get behind, because it is about our shared future. By way of background, I know those in the chamber will be aware, but those watching at home may not be. Our neighbours in Thurrock Unitary Council invested in a series of solar farms to raise revenue that could then be spent on council services. Essentially, to put a fine point on it, well, I'm coming on to that if you let me finish, rather than just ranting on. To put a fine point on it, it turned out to be little more than an alleged Ponzi scheme, and it emerged that the farms themselves had been grossly overvalued. Now, full disclosure, the council at the time was Conservative controlled, and the policy also had the support of the then Labour opposition. There is no dressing this one up. It was a failure at multiple levels by councillors and officers of the council who allegedly conspired to keep vital information away from elected members. The council's failure to properly vet the investments and the fallout are still ongoing, but the too long didn't read version is that Thurrock Council is, as of this evening, it's been updated, £1.1 billion in debt. The council was forced to put its council tax up by 10%, but it remains in a staggering amount of trouble and making the delivery of non-core services very challenging. The current government proposals for local government reform all join Basildon and Thurrock together, with various other parties in some models, and the 5-council model, which we are now told is the most likely outcome, would see Basildon and Thurrock joined together to form a new unitary authority. Now, I was pleased and relieved to hear the leader of the council be so categoric and say that in the event of a merger with Thurrock, Basildon Council taxpayers would not be taking on a single penny of Thurrock's debt. However, on the 2nd of May 2025, we received the Local Government Reorganisation Interim Plan Feedback Document. This is it. I'm sure you've all read it. It's fascinating stuff. Now, it goes on a bit, but the crucial section of this, and indeed the part that this motion is designed to mitigate, is Annex B, the final page of the report. And I think it's worth reading the relevant sections verbatim. So for context, Annex B refers to the government's current position on the treatment of Thurrock Council's debt. Section 1 says, the government accepts that Thurrock Council holds significant unsupported debt that cannot be managed locally in its entirety. I think many of us would agree that the words in its entirety are significant and they are doing a lot of heavy lifting. Clearly the implication is at least some of it will have to be managed locally. Section 2 refers to an initial tranche of funding being made available ahead of the reorganisation, again implying that at least a proportion of the debt will still be present upon the reorganisation. Point 3 states, the government would need to consider the terms of any financial debt support for debt requirement in relation to assurance over the council's financial position. The council's continued commitment to reduce the debt locally within their capacity. Again, that word, locally. It is clear, Mr. Mayor, this debt isn't going away. And finally, the very last paragraph of the whole report, the catchily named Criterion 2F, which is the criteria that the government has said must be fully considered when making proposals for local government reform. I will read it. In general, as with previous restructures, there is no proposal for government debt to be addressed centrally. I'll repeat that. No proposal for council debt, to be addressed centrally, or written off as part of the reorganisation. For areas where there are exceptional circumstances, i.e. Thurrock, where there has been failure linked to capital practices, proposals should reflect the extent to which implications of this can be managed locally. That word again, locally, including as part of efficiencies possible through the reorganisation. And there it is, Mr. Mayor, unequivocal. Yes, it looks like the government will knock a few £100 million off the top of the debt. They may even agree to restructure it in some way, but to be quite clear, it will still be there. Any future administration that involves Thurrock Council will take responsibility for its debt. Now, the leader said, rightly so, in my view, that not a penny of debt would pass to Basildon taxpayers. That doesn't mean £1 billion, it doesn't mean 800 million, it means not a single penny. And this motion gives the leader the opportunity, with the backing of this chamber, to go back to central government and tell them that we will not accept our residents paying for Thurrock's mistakes. This isn't about Conservative or Labour or Independent. This is about right or wrong. This is about the future of our children and our grandchildren. If it's £800 million that we inherit, that is £4,000 of debt for every man, woman and child in Basildon Borough. That is not the legacy that the 42 of us want to leave for our children and our grandchildren. It's not what I'm here to do, and I don't believe it's what you guys are here to do either. We need to stand up to this. This isn't about unitary. We can disagree on whether we think a unitary system is good or bad, but surely, Mr. Mayor, none of us want to be part of a reorganisation that will saddle us with a mountain of debt and give us an authority that is hull below the waterline before it even starts. It's there in black and white. I've printed out copies. You can all have a look if you want to. Perhaps the Mayor would want to adjourn so people can read the relevant material. As the current plans stand, if we support this reorganisation, we will be taking on a huge proportion of Thurrock's debt, and our residents will never forgive us. This isn't about party politics. This is about fairness. It's about standing up for the residents we represent, and it's about our future. And I ask you all genuinely to come to this motion with an open mind and support it. But it is because it is clear, without our support, the administration may be forced into a position where it has to accept a massive debt burden. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Barnes. Seconder, Councillor Schrader. Do you wish to speak? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir. It gives me great pleasure to second the motion moved by my friend and ward colleague, the Leader of the Opposition. Now, we know, Mr. Mayor, that there's considerable disagreement across this chamber on the efficacy and desirability of local government reorganisation. Some want Greater Essex to have a metro mayor, some don't. Some want the county reorganised into 3 unitary councils, others as many as 5. We've divergent views on planning powers, policing, economic growth, etc., etc., etc. And, of course, the vexed question of future boundaries. We can and will argue till the cows come home on this stuff. Where we've been united, Mr. Mayor, and of one voice, is on the question of local authority debt. On that subject, Mr. Mayor, we've been the epitome of cross-party concord, because the Labour leader has been gratifyingly and consistently trenchant in his insistence that Basildon Borough taxpayers will not take on 1 penny of another council's debt. I don't agree with him on much, but I do agree with him on that. Our taxpayers shouldn't be faced with having to foot the bill through their council tax for another local authority's poor financial management. I was therefore as distressed as Councillor Barnes when I read the interim plan feedback issued to Essex, Southend and Thurrock by the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government on May the 2nd. And as Councillor Barnes said, Annex B clearly states that while the government accepts that Thurrock Council holds significant unsupported debt and commits to providing an initial tranche of financial support ahead of the implementation of LGR in Greater Essex, it goes on to note the continued commitment to reduce the debt locally within their capacity. What I'm afraid was notably absent from this ministerial missive was any commitment whatever to forgive or wipe Thurrock's horrendous debt. There was nothing in the document that offered any reassurance that any council or councils merging with Thurrock as part of a new unitary authority would not find themselves saddled with a sizable chunk of the liability for Thurrock's debt. That's not an acceptable position to the Conservative group, and I'd hope and assume it's an unacceptable position to every member in this chamber. The Leader of the Council has been commendably clear on this point. As Councillor Barnes mentioned, he reiterated his commitment that Basildon wouldn't take on a single penny of Thurrock's debt. That was during his most recent Facebook Live. Ultimately, it's the Leader's desire that Basildon be merged with Thurrock. For what it's worth, I've been pretty clear that I personally have no principled objection to Basrock. I'd just prefer it if by then Billericay was no longer part of Basildon. Yeah. Hashtag Billerexit. But if we're to remain locked in our current loveless marriage, I certainly don't want to see my constituency, Billericay East, paying through the nose via their council tax for Thurrock's solar farms. And I don't imagine for one moment that anyone in this room would accept with alacrity the notion their constituents should do so. I'd hope we all agree on that. I therefore commend the motion to full council. I hope that the Leader of the Council will seek to secure an undertaking
from His Majesty's Government that we will not take on a penny of any other council's debt, as he stated previously, and if such an undertaking is not forthcoming, I hope and trust he'll oppose any form of LGR that seeks to impose such liabilities upon our residents. I take him at his word that he'll be consistent in the position he set out so clearly, and I invite colleagues across the chamber to support the motion. I formally second. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sharda. The matter is now open for debate. Do I have any speakers? Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have an amendment which I think officers may be able to circulate.
Okay, Councillor, I'll just provide a couple of minutes for that to circulate and for everyone to read the amendment, and then I'll call you again. Thank you. Okay, I'm satisfied that the motion has been distributed and initially read. Councillor Callaghan, you have 10 minutes for your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just by way of context on this for members and for those watching, the motion as was presented was, in my view, more of a surrender motion than it was an actual motion that we could support. And I'm going to come on and explain why. But I do think that there are a couple of things to just point out. The first part of this is that the basis of this motion that has been put forward tonight is feedback on interim proposals. The clue there is in the word interim. So we are not yet in receipt of the government's final full position on how they are going to treat all of the debt across councils. What we will see as the first marker is what happens to Surrey, because Surrey County Council were the first to put their, County rather, were the first to put their proposals in, and we will see about the treatment of Woking's debt. Tory-run Woking, they managed to rack up £2.5 billion worth of debt on that district council. So we will see how the government treats that, and that will give us some indication. But Mr. Mayor, I do have some sympathy, as I have said before, with the point that is the motion is trying to make, albeit badly. Again, I say to Councillor Schrader, one of the things the Tories will one day learn about me, I'm sure, is that I am pretty consistent about most things that I believe in, whether it is the abolition of Essex County Council or local government reorganisation. I've been here since 2012 talking about it. And I don't mean to be patronising to any member when I say this, but it is difficult to draft motions on LGR because of the pace in which this situation is changing. Most members are not up to date with the evolving evidence base and the advice. I spend around 95% of my time at the moment on LGR, and it is changing rapidly. And I believe every political group in this chamber, however, is in agreement on one fundamental principle. Basildon Council will not take on legacy unsupported debt from Thurrock Council, full stop. And that has been my position from the outset. And I said it in this chamber last October. I've repeated it to ministers, and I will repeat it again tonight. Well, they're shaking their heads. I'm about to give them a lesson in how economics works, so do pay attention. I am not going to let the hard-working residents of Basildon be burdened with the consequences of financial mismanagement that we had no part in. We should also, however, be honest with the public when we talk about debt, because we have to understand what kind of debt we are talking about. Not all debt in local government is created equally. Some councils, again, I know Schrader doesn't understand this. He was the cabinet member for housing, right? I'm about to explain this to him, right? Some councils carry housing revenue accounts, right? That has debt attached to it. Others don't. So in Basildon, our HRA has around £300 million of debt attached to it in the HRA. But crucially, it is supported debt. So it is tied directly to £2.5 billion worth of housing assets that serve our tenants and serve our communities. Similarly, Basildon Council has around £400 million in commercial debt. But again, this is backed up by over £1 billion in asset. These are income-generating investments. So on paper, someone might look at our books and claim that Basildon Council is sat on £700 million of debt, but they would be missing the point entirely. Debt without context is meaningless. Unsupported debt is the real problem here. And on this, there is complete agreement between Basildon Council and the government. In fact, ministers have been clear, as has been said tonight, they do not expect any new councils to take on unsupported legacy debt. It is not fair, and it would be a non-starter. That point has been made by me directly to officials at MHCLG. It has been reinforced by Essex Labour MPs. It has been echoed by Labour Council leaders across the county. We are all united in that principle. And I will be making that point again on Monday evening when I meet with ministers and officials again. I want to update members on where we are in this process, because the government provided this interim feedback on the 2nd of May. And again, in that, they do clearly acknowledge that unsupported debt cannot be managed locally in full. They have confirmed that further financial support would be provided to Thurrock ahead of any structural changes in 2027. Thurrock will have some form of supported debt. They have a HRA that will be contributing to their total debt figure. It is the unsupported debt linked to solar farms that we are interested in. So the task before us now, and to put that into context, because they still look confused, it would be difficult, would it not, to argue the point that we cannot take on a single penny of Thurrock Council's HRA debt, but they have to take on all £300 million of ours. That would be a nonsense negotiating position to be in, would it not? So out of their £1.1 billion of debt that they have at the moment, the work is being done to identify what is supported debt, like we have around £700 million here, and what is unsupported debt linked to the solar farms. I don't think that's a particularly controversial or difficult point, but again, looking at faces over there, perhaps it is. The task before us, therefore, is to interrogate that detail and to come up with real answers. So we have to ask what the levers are, what the mechanisms are, and how, and for me, how will Basildon residents and businesses be protected from any impact? So one of the things we are looking at is, could debt repayment be tied to ring-fenced council tax receipts on new homes that are built within the old Thurrock boundary? Could we use future business rate growth, including from the Thames Freeport, which is projected to bring in about £1 billion of new business rate growth over the next decade to offset some of those historic liabilities? These are the sorts of questions that we are pursuing right now. I don't know, as I stand here today, if that is a goer or if it isn't. That work, however, is happening at pace, and we are all linked to the 26th of September deadline. Where I cannot agree with the motion as it currently stands is the suggestion that Basildon should withdraw from the table altogether. We do not protect our people by walking away. We do not protect our borough by letting others dictate terms to us. So I will not, under any circumstances, leave Basildon residents vulnerable to decisions made by other councils without our input. Since July, I have led the LGR negotiations in Essex. Indeed, it is the plan that I presented to this council, the first council in Essex to bring a proposal to full council that has survived the test of time. That proposal is the preferred proposal of 80% of councils in Essex, and it will be submitted as option A in the business cases presented to government on the 26th of September. I have sat across the table from leaders of all parties and none over the last 9 months, and my mission throughout has been clear. We must make local government reorganisation work, but we must preserve the local in local government and keep Basildon's voice strong and protected in whatever configuration emerges. I cannot support anything that calls on us to walk away, and I would suggest others rethink that position too. The amendment does something simple, I think, but powerful. It sends a unified message to government that this council will not accept the transfer of any unsupported legacy debt to Basildon residents or businesses. That is an entirely proper and reasonable position for this council to take. But I must also be honest with members here and the public. It is not councillors or council leaders who will make this final decision. It will be the responsibility of government ministers. What we can do, and I believe what we must continue to do, is shape those decisions with credible proposals, strong leadership, and a firm grip on the facts. So, colleagues, I hope members across the chamber will support the amendment tonight so that we can send that clear message to government that Basildon is united and that we are clear in principle and we remain constructive in action. The future of our borough, the well-being of the people we represent, depends on it. And so, Mr. Mayor, I would just say, finally, every single council must, and we have taken through Cabinet, and many members in this room, including leaders of the opposition, understand this. Every single year, the council, according to SITFA guidelines, has to look for ways to reduce its debt. We have already done that with the disposal of one particular commercial asset for a significant sum of money. In the coming weeks, we will do that again with some of our regeneration projects where we will look to dispose of that land and of that money. So we as a council must, in the next 2 years, reduce our debt profile as well. We must get that £700 million down as we get towards LGR. That is what every other council is doing. The $1 million question, let's hope it is million and not $1 billion question, is what is left in the thorough pot of unsupported government debt. The Leader of the Opposition said in his contribution tonight that even he accepts that the government may write off as much as hundreds of millions of pounds. That was his words, not mine. That may be enough to wipe off the unsupported debt. We don't know that at this moment in time, and that is the work that is being done. So, again, I just put some facts on the table, and I hope that those facts are the ones that we end up debating, and hopefully we send a united message tonight by all supporting this amendment, which we can all get behind. It is not a surrender motion, it's actually a real solution, and says very clearly to the Labour government that Basildon Council will not take a penny of legacy unsupported debt.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. Do you have a seconder? Councillor McGarren. You can speak for 5 minutes. Thank you.
I doubt I'll need it, but you never know. I'd like to thank the Leader for the clarity which he outlined the amendment. I only wish Councillor Barnes had been quite so clear. I'm still confused as whether he is leading the charge for Billericay to declare UDI or not. Councillor Schrader seems to be firmly in the camp of marching into a new horizon under the banner of Chelmsford or Brentwood, conveniently ignoring the fact that neither of them want Billericay particularly, and the fact that you can't afford the car parking under either of those authorities if you were to be successful in that venture. Anyway, thanks also to Councillor Barnes for the timely reminder of the abject failure of Thurrock's Conservative administration for plunging them into the ridiculous amount of debt in the first place. And thank you to the leader for reminding us of the colossal debt run up by Conservative Woking that actually manages to put Thurrock somewhat in the shade in that respect. The fact of the matter is, you're quoting from an interim document. That's fine. You're not part of the conversation, so that's the best you can probably do. The leader here has been part of the conversation from the start, still is and will be throughout the process. Events have moved on. The fact is, you are now the irrelevant party. You're not part of the conversation, you're not part of the process. But let's just be clear, and Councillor Callaghan couldn't have been clearer throughout. The £8 million of debt, it's not happening, and you know it's not happening, or at least you should know it's not happening. But let's be realistic as well. If you were the government, whether Labour, Conservative, whatever, at the start of an LGR process, and you've got councils with significant legacy debt, are you going to say to them, don't worry about it, lads and girls, we're going to write it all off, so don't worry about delivering any savings, and don't, you know, if you want to sign up to a few more Ponzi schemes, Conservative councils, knock yourselves out. That's not the way how it works. And it is right and proper to expect Thurrock Council over the next couple of years to do what they can to address the issues. That is not unreasonable. As the leader illustrated, he is part of the ongoing conversation working to find a solution to what is a significant problem. And he's outlined some of the possibilities that, you know, that may or may not work. They're all under discussion. We're not hearing any creativity from that side as usual. But the fact of the matter is, this will be dealt with before LGR actually takes place. The leader of the council is in the room. The irrelevant party have got their noses pressed to the windows thinking of what might have been had Essex County Council's leader Kevin Bentley's devolution plan not been scuppered by Mark Francois and other Conservative MPs in the county. The amendment will, it's very clear, and Councillor Callaghan has done his best to explain it. I hope some of it's got through. The amendment will not support the transfer of unsupported debt. And I urge all councillors to support the amendment on that basis. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor McGurran. The matter is now open. The amendment is now open for debate. Councillor Barnes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I regret that this has turned into a political slanging match. That was not the intention of this motion. The intention of this motion was to try and protect our residents from taking on vast amounts of debt accrued by another local authority. I understand perfectly well the difference between supported and unsupported debt. I understand perfectly well that there may well be methods by which Thurrock's debt can be offset. But ultimately, all of that is something that we, as councillors and as representatives of our residents, are being asked to take on faith. You can't take things on faith when there's a document here that clearly says that we will be taking on council debt and it will not be addressed centrally. Furthermore, even in his own speech, Councillor Callaghan acknowledges that point 1 clearly says the government accepts that Thurrock Council holds significant unsupported debt, unsupported, as you referred to, that cannot be managed locally in its entirety. In other words, there will be things going, but some of it will be managed locally, clearly. Now, why on earth wouldn't you support a motion that does everything possible to offset it? Why on earth, if you're concerned that the requirement to withdraw participation if you don't receive an assurance is a step too far, wouldn't you just amend that bit and leave the motion as it is? Why have you watered down this motion to give yourself the wiggle room to take on debt from another authority? I cannot understand it, because this is not the position that the administration has had up until this point. What exactly has changed? You know, we're now saying that Thurrock Council holds significant unsupported debt, and that central government will be provided to reduce Thurrock Council liabilities ahead of a reorganisation. So if we vote for this motion, Mr Mayor, we are accepting that Basildon residents, Basildon Council taxpayers are on the hook for Thurrock debt. You can dress it up any way you like. You can make an 11-minute long speech which basically talks around the issue, but it is there in black and white. Unsupported debt, not in its entirety. We will not support this amendment, Mr Mayor, because this amendment seeks to evade the purpose of the motion. The purpose of the motion is to hold this administration to account for statements that it has made. Not a penny. That's what you said. Not a penny. Not a few £100 million here and a few £100 million there. Not a penny, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barnes. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I can see why the opposition are really digging in on this one. The leader of Essex County Council must have some fantastic barbecue, and I'm going to gate crash the party just to see what it's all about. Yes, you've not listened to a word the leader has said. Once the unsupported debt has been discovered, then you can talk about it. It's like my car packed up Monday. I don't go down to Mo's garage, I'll wave your magic wand and make it work. It's like, well, I've got to take the hood up. Where's the fault? Oh yeah, you need new hose. That's what you do, you've got to look under the hood. So you can't pull up at the garage and say, fix the car. You've got to look under the hood, get your hands dirty. And that's what the leader's talking about. Understand it. It's not hard, is it? Then when you look at the difference in council tax based on Band D between us and Thurrock, Thurrock on a Band D council tax is paying £87.03 a year less than us. Now, are you suggesting the new unitary authority, if you live in Basildon, you'll pay more council tax than in Thurrock? Because if that was true, wouldn't you have done that? Made Billericay paid less council tax and up Basildon Town's council tax? Of course you would. So this new authority will have the same level of council tax on each band. So the debt Thurrock's, the unsupported debt that Thurrock has voted for by electing the Muppet Show and officers who, quite frankly, why have they not been in a police cell? You know, if I went in a post office and robbed it, I'd be expected to get banged up and serve me time. But if you put a shirt and tie on, call yourself a civil servant, you're not in a cell. How is that right? How is that actually right? You know, can someone explain it to me? Panorama done a brilliant documentary. They chased after was it the 151 officer? It was like straight off the Cook report, weren't it? He was like doing a Benny Hill run away from him with his dog. If he had done nothing wrong, he could have said, well, this, well, that. And let's face it, the Conservative administration in Thurrock went, oh, you can spend, was it £500 million without authority from councillors? Delegation. With no delegation. I mean, hello, Banana Republic country. These plans, we ditch a parasitic creature that takes our lifeblood away based at County Hall, and we will be putting a feckless authority back on the sand and narrow. We're going to give them the Kim and Aggie treatment and put them straight. God rest Kim Woodburn Salt. I used to enjoy her on TV. That's what's happening. So it will sort itself out, but as the leader says, until someone lifts the hood on the car, has a look, is it the starter motor, is it the head gasket, what is it? You don't know. And let's face it, under your watch in government, when counties like Northamptonshire went bust and they got rid of the 4 districts in the county, they didn't say, well, the debt's entirely yours, bye. It was sorted out. So what is the problem? Thurrock will be repaying their debt. And one thing the Conservatives never mention, when this new authority is created, what perk do Thurrock and Dartford residents presently have? A nice discount off the Dartford toll. And I'm very capably sure, once we've had a look under the hood, seen where the unsupported debt is, Gavin is going to squeeze the government minister to get Basildon taxpayers that same discount too, which we rightfully deserve. And also when they build that new river crossing across the Thames. So I'll be supporting this amendment. It's common sense. Why the Conservatives are like that with County, oh Lord, oh Master. Grow a pair, stand up. Basildon first, but get Bas exit done. County's not our friend.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. I'll now put the amendment to the vote. All those in favour, please show. All those against? Abstentions? The amendment is carried and therefore becomes a substantive. Thank you. Substantive is now reopened for debate. I have an indication for the speakers. Councillor Jeffrey. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we've just heard, that there's processes going behind closed doors. We should actually really look at that there should be no progress until the debt is fully and transparently resolved for all taxpayers to look at. Now, personally, I believe Wickford's future lies in mid-Essex, not tied to a borough burdened by financial mismanagement. We should not be paying for the mistakes of others. And to those residents still signing a petition, I say keep going. This is about protecting services, our voice and our right to choose who governs us in this reorganisation. And let's be honest with ourselves, any new council faces serious financial constraints. The report circulated to the Chief Exec and to the leader says it. Now, this reorganisation is fragile and it must be approached with care and the proper scrutiny, and above all, the respect for people who will pay the council tax and depend on the services that council will provide. Now, finally, we must actually acknowledge that there's a democratic deficit at the heart of all this. The administration has no clear mandate to pursue these reforms in this way. Nowhere was it made clear that we would be expected to merge with Thurrock. And I'm confident, had it been put to the people, they would have said no. So I say this, let Wickford decide its own future, let us restore its historic right to choose how it is governed and by whom and in whose interests.
I have no further speakers on the debate. Councillor Barnes, I'll call on you to wrap up. 5 minutes, thank you.
Well, what a shame, really. We had the opportunity to really send a powerful message to the government. We had the opportunity to send a powerful message to our residents to make it clear that we, as a council chamber, mean what we say and that the leader of this council means what he says. And I regret that the motion as has been carried, or the amendment I should say, as has been carried tonight, does neither of those things. Instead, what we've heard is a load of whataboutery about Essex County Council. We've heard a load of sort of sniggering and laughing and political political point scoring when this isn't the time. Our residents expect us to protect them from a huge unsupported debt from another authority. It is as simple as that. You've heard the facts. You've seen the government's own words. There is no proposal for council debt to be addressed centrally. And that means one thing. If we do nothing, Basildon will be expected to shoulder a share of Thurrock's catastrophic financial mess. And by watering down the motion, that is exactly what you have endorsed tonight. It isn't speculation, It's written in black and white. This chamber had a choice. It wasn't a party political choice. It wasn't about whether unitary reform was good or bad, but a choice about whether we were willing to allow our residents, your residents, to take on the burden that they had no hand in creating. £4,000 of debt for every man, woman and child in this borough. That is not a reorganisation, Mr Mayor. It is a betrayal. This motion would have given our leader the backing to say with one voice, not a penny, which is his own words. I wish, as representatives, you'd stepped up, and I regret that you failed to do so. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. We now will vote on the motion as it stands. All those in favour, please indicate. Yeah. All those against? Abstentions, please. 3. Okay, that motion, as it's been amended, is carried. Thank you. There is one emergency notice of motion for debate. I call upon Councillor Kerry Smith to present his motion. He has up to 10 minutes. Do you have a seconder?
I do, Mr Mayor. Don't worry, you all look worried. I'm going to do what they do in the American Senate and filibuster. This issue needs action now.
Who's the seconder?
Councillor Brown.
Brown, thank you.
It needs action. Are we ready? I'll read out the emergency motion. And I'd like to thank you, Mr Mayor, for considering the importance of it. So the emergency motion reads as such. This council has no confidence in the South Essex Parking Partnership SEP. No buses will be running through Lee Chapel South during the morning and evening rush hour. This leaves over 3,200 hard-working taxpayers without public transport. Many residents of Lee Chapel work for the NHS. The reason why this lifeline of the bus service is being cancelled is due to the fact that the South Essex Parking Partnership do not regularly patrol the area outside of the school gates. The decision was made aware to both residents and councillors that this bus service was being cancelled on Tuesday of this week. In short, SEP have consistently failed to enforce the law outside of the school gates and instead try to farm this problem of parking enforcement onto the school. Council believes that teachers are there to teach and traffic wardens are there to enforce parking restrictions. On behalf of the council, it asked the leader and the chief executive to write a joint letter to the Cabinet Member for Highways of Essex County Council to end SEP's fiefdom over Basildon and hand over all parking enforcement powers that SEP presently holds over to Basildon Borough Council. This is so the law and the rules of the road can be enforced across the borough. If I may briefly give members some background information. Now, as the local county council member, I have been fighting non-stop. It's like trench warfare. In 2015, in the approach to the general election, I sort of cajoled the former MP Stephen Metcalfe to support this. I know. Sat there, Steve, you might recall him as Mr Leader, to get a 20s plenty. County wouldn't put a 20 mile an hour. Fine, we tried with speed tables. Then I got a petition up with the South Essex Parking Partnership form. You know the one, you've got to get at least 50 signatures and they try and do everything they can to sabotage it. And I'll speak about that in a minute if people would like some more evidence. And we got it all together to upgrade the parking restrictions outside of the school. I took that to the South Essex Parking Partnership and they went, no, we're not going to do it unless the school stands out there and send their staff out and taps on the windscreen and asks the parents not to park there. And I said to them, the teachers are there to teach the kids. What are your traffic wardens doing? They're the ones who should be going up to the cars going, you're on a zigzag, mate. Done. In Havering Council, they've even put public space protection orders outside the school. If you park 3 times outside of a school, you're off to a magistrate's court. Because in Havering, they're taking the issue seriously. Where with the quango of the South Essex Parking Partnership, they don't take this seriously. I then got up a petition just to red route the essential part during the school run hours only, and I took that petition to the local highways panel, which I can do as the county member, and to SEP. SEP was like, no, 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 no. And the school crossing patrol organiser for Essex was backing it. So I took it to the local highways panel, the nuclear option, and they went, what have you tried to do? So I told them about the restrictions, that SEP would not install it because they think teachers should be traffic wardens. You know, second best primary school in South Essex. Let your standards go down and let the teachers go and issue tickets. I mean, I'll be polite, there's words for that, and you can all think of words for people who take that mindset. So the local highways panel officer, Colette, brilliant. She got it through, and all of the cross-party members who are county councillors for the borough supported that on there, and they were not happy bunnies, SEP. The restrictions were put in last year with some bollards, some other physical measures, and SEP have not been seen at all with their traffic wardens. I've had residents approach me, Councillor Brown, Councillor Robbins, Councillor Green, to say, yeah, it's great you've had these restrictions extended outside the school. We don't see traffic wardens. 3 years ago, this is the only time I've ever seen traffic wardens outside the school. This guy goes up to this lady, parked on a zigzag line. Now, we all know the highway code. There is no excuse for parking on a zigzag line. He literally, do you mind moving your car, please? And she gave him the middle finger salute. And he walked off. I went, excuse me, are you going to put a ticket on that car? He goes, no, 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 we're not allowed to be confrontational. It's a joke. There's already been at least one incident of a child run over, thankfully. It was a minor accident. It could have been a lot worse. Residents there have no bus when they need it in the rush hour. When all we need to see happen is the traffic wardens come down. If you're breaking the parking restrictions, don't need a conversation, ticket. Done. I'm not anti-motorist. I just want the area outside the school gate safe. I want the bus to run up and down the Nares and people to go about their business. Now, it's pretty clear to me that the South Essex Parking Partnership are not up to the job. As the leader said, whenever you come behind the Baz Centre, those double yellow lines mean nothing. I'm here every day during the week. You never see a traffic warden. You never see a parking fine on there. Nothing. Where there's good, decent taxpayers who were getting ripped off at the Westgate car park, and again, thanks to the leader, we own it and we've got rid of that parking operator. But there was people doing the right thing, paying for parking, where they are those who abuse the system because they know the South Essex Parking Partnership do not patrol as often as they should. I just want fairness, safety, and people to get a bus to and from work to pay their taxis. And I hope all members can support it. And at the very least, this is a major shake-up, an earthquake for them, so they start sending traffic wardens. Not just the school I'm calling for in the Nares, but you know the other schools in your wards that you represent. Because we want to encourage children to walk to school and be safe. But when it's just a whole jig jam of cars parked any way they like, it's dangerous. And very briefly, I've also mentioned this in meetings of the South Essex Parking Partnership, where cars are parked within 10 metres of a junction, say at the school at Greatberry, where Forest Glade meets Nightingales. And so South Essex Parking Partnership is, why don't you call the police? No, why don't you put some yellow lines there and keep the area safe? Because they won't paint yellow lines there because the traffic regulation order is £5,000. So again, kids' safety coming before their surpluses at the end of the year. So I shall leave it at that. Please, please, please. Not for any dig or plus for me. Think of these kids. Think of the people going to work and support this emergency motion. It's time for action and time we carried on our administration's mission under our leader's priority of Basildon first.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Brown, you'll be seconding. Do you wish to speak? Thank you.
I just want to say, in support of the motion, that I have had my inbox inundated by parents, and what they're crying out for is for the South Essex Partnership to do what they're supposed to do and enforce the parking restrictions that they're meant to be enforcing, but they haven't been there. And as I've already raised in my member's question to the leader, I ask that we disband this SEP, that the powers be passed to Basildon Council. There are clear examples where other councils have managed to grab this problem, to do a better job of solving the problem, and to be more responsive to the local constituents who put them in power. Whereas the Essex County Council, who seems far removed, like Neptune from Basildon, they're completely unresponsive to the local democratic needs. And if my inbox is anything to go by, they would have been shouting from the rooftops to get action that this council would take, but SEP is unable or unwilling to take. And so for those reasons, I actively support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. The matter is now open for debate. Councillor Schrader.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Only very, very briefly. I should probably declare an interest as my goddaughter attends the school in question. So I'm certainly not without sympathy. I've certainly had my own run-ins with SEP, not least parking outside schools in my own ward. I kind of doubt that SEP are refusing to enforce. I suspect, certainly in my experience dealing with them, they probably said they don't have the resources to sit outside every school in South Essex dropping off and kicking out time. Now, it may be that bringing that in-house, as the administration has talked about doing on several occasions, it may well be that if we bring it in-house, that we will have those resources. If so, great. I'll have some of that for Sunnymead and Mayflower High School in my patch. But I'd like to see a proper cost-benefit analysis, an actual report that shows me demonstrably that we will benefit from bringing that in-house, because presumably there is some reason why we pulled it all into SEP in the first place. So I would like to see that evidence base. It's hard to imagine how this is an emergency motion. It doesn't sound to me like this is an issue that's emerged overnight, but I've certainly got similar problems outside schools in my ward. I suspect we all do. I would like to see the evidence that we could do things better in-house. I've not seen it yet.
Thank you, Councillor Schrader. Councillor Headley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe that we, as a council, appoint to outside bodies, and I may need to be corrected, but I believe Councillor McGurran actually represents this council on the South Essex Parking Partnership. Can he shed any light on why Councillor Smith is having so much trouble with it?
Thank you. Councillor Callaghan.
I can shed light for Councillor Headley. It is because, as I said earlier on, SEP is just too preoccupied in Brentwood and Chelmsford, where they think that they are going to earn all of their money. Whatever you think of the motion tonight around this particular school, and as Councillor Schrader has said, we all have schools across our wards where there are issues. I would hope that we could all agree on the fact that the council is, this council should be far more in control of what is going on its roads and in its local areas than we currently are. The new town of Basildon in particular is still inhibited by so many legacy issues around the Development Corporation's dissolution, the creation of the Basildon Town Centre Management Group, weird quangos that then come along and hold on to land in our borough. We've dealt with that at Cabinet. We're now going to take control of BTCM and bring it back into Basildon Council's ownership. The South Essex Parking Partnership is another strange quango. I can well imagine that if you're sat here as the leader of Chelmsford or the leader of Brentwood, you're quite happy with it. I think for us, we want to have more control, more enforcement. I said last week at Cabinet that one of the things that really annoys me about the debate around parking is the issue around, well, it's free car parking. Well, it's not, is it? Right? There is no free car parking. There's no free car parking at the Mayflower Retail Park. There's no free car parking at the Festival Leisure Park. There's no free car parking at Lakeside. It is all paid for by the retailers. The issue that we have here is that in our council-owned car parks, enforcement is pretty rubbish. And that is because we are outsourcing that to the South Essex Parking Partnership. If we had it in-house here, if we had our own car parking enforcement team, if Councillor McGurran, as the Cabinet member responsible for parking, could be saying very clearly, I want you to be going after this particular area, we want to look at permits in this particular area, then that would enable us to have far more say, far more control, and frankly, for us to ring-fence the revenue here in Basildon. I also said last week, one of the reasons why you'd never go and park your car in the Wickford car park is because it's a rubbish car park. Because for years, we haven't invested any money into it, whether it's the machines, the lighting, the spaces being too small. So again, by disbanding SEC and bringing it back in-house, we would have more money and more revenue to be able to put into things here. I am more than happy, as the Chief Exec, I'm sure, is to take this motion away and to write the letter if members are minded to support the motion this evening. We should make it easier for people to travel on public transport. We should not be reducing bus services in our borough. My inbox, like Councillor Brown's, is constantly full of residents telling me how annoyed they are about bus services being cut. Recent bus service to Orsett Hospital being cut is a big one for people living in the town centre here in Basildon, but there are other issues as well. We debated some of them tonight around how there is infrastructure money available to put on even more bus services. If only we could abolish the county council and bring it over here to enable us to do it. So I will leave it there, Mr Mayor, other than to say I absolutely support the Nethermain and Langdon Hills councillors for bringing this emergency motion this evening. Obviously, the bus being cancelled, the announcement just yesterday, I think it was, or the day before, qualifies it to be an emergency motion. Grateful to you for allowing it this evening, Mr Mayor, and of course, if council does vote for it, the Chief Exec and I will get that letter off in good order. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Turner, and then Councillor Smith.
Thank you,
to conclude.
Mr. Mayor. Just to add a bit of context to this, so you might not be surprised, but I was one of the decision makers that outed this to SEP, yeah, and it was based on experience because we had our own enforcement officers, and it's nice to think that if we had these services in house, we could do everything that Councillor Callaghan says we could do. I don't want to burst your bubble. But it might not actually work like that. And let me tell you what happens. So you get a whole bunch of things, and I accept that everything is possible if you want to throw resource at it. If you want to throw hard cash, taxpayers' cash to it, you can do whatever you want, including bring back the bins. An overrun of 2.2 million and a 3.1 million spend. That's another story.
Yeah, it is another story.
Because people fall asleep at the wheel, like Councillor McGurran. And this will be the same, I hasten to say, with your own enforcement team. Yeah, these guys you can send out, you can direct them. And I really don't want to put the mockers on it because I would like it to work. Because we've all got schools, we've all got areas where we want this to work. But you're going to employ people that are not highly motivated in putting tickets on vehicles. So what happens is this, you spend a whole amount of resource in the budget. You expect to be self-funded. It never happens. And suddenly you've got some hard choices to make. And these hard choices are where you say, do we really want to carry on wasting money? Hence the decision to put it out to SEP. Now I know you will say you're being defeatist, but these are the realities you're going to have to deal with. So I wish you well on it. because I think you've made the decision to bring it back in. But face those realities, because they will appear, and you know you're not getting grade A people that have got want to make a career out of enforcement. These are people that just want a job. They want to pay their bills. They want a, dare I say, an easy life in that respect. And you can't pay them a minimum wage, not even a living wage. You have to pay them by our standards, and those standards are pretty high. So what you do, again, you drive us into a position where throwing resource at it, money's not coming back, and suddenly you've got a big problem on your hands. Hence the reason why we put it out to SEP. I have to say, SEP has been a disappointment right from the beginning. And we've all had experience where we've asked SEP to step up and do stuff, and it just doesn't materialise. But you'll do what you want to do. You've got the votes for the time being, so go ahead. But go into it with your eyes open, because it won't be quite as you put it. This is what we're going to do. We're going to get this team, we're going to direct them, they're going to go out, they're going to pay for themselves, and we'll have a bit of revenue over because they'll be doing such a good job. Good luck. I wish you well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Smith, you have 5 minutes to wrap
I
up.
won't need 5 minutes. Thank you again, Mr Mayor, for allowing this emergency general meeting. There's only one person I wish to respond to is Councillor Turner. That is a fair comment to make about if you're not able to deliver a service. Well, when it comes to enforcement, well, we've just resolved a problem like that. We've grabbed the bull by the horns with antisocial tenants, and we're enforcing the laws around them. And with the assistance of our new chief executive, you know, he's our lawman from the wild East End, Barking and Dagenham. You know, he's our white Earp. And he's bringing us some very good things. And you're going to start to see, or rather the fly tippers are going to start to see less money in their pocket. So the concerns Councillor Turner has made about enforcement, you're going to love, absolutely love to see our plans. I'm working with Councillor McGowan with enforcement against the fly tippers. Oh, Councillor Turner, we put it this way, I wouldn't want to drop a toffee paper with our plans. As I say, we've got White Earp there, and we're going to go and clean up the fly tippers in Basildon. But this emergency motion has to pass tonight, because SEP don't give two monkeys about Basildon. The kids have to be safe, people need to get to work, people need to get their hospital appointments, and if they want to employ snowflakes, not traffic wardens, not our problem. Time to disband, give it to us. We've got White Earp, we can find the people. Yeah, we'll have lawmen, not snowflakes on our streets. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll now put this motion to the vote. All those in favour, please show. All those against? And abstentions, please. Thank you. That motion is carried. And May, on a personal note, thank you for your conduct this evening. Have a safe journey home.